Speaking before the Senate, Victoria Nuland confirmed there are biolabs in Ukraine and that the U.S. is concerned Russia may seize them and that the U.S. is working with Ukraine to figure out what to do with these biolabs. Now, of course, we've been getting an endless stream of media claiming it's all a big conspiracy theory, and these fact checkers do something interesting. They fact check an extreme version of the story. So you see this meme going around saying that Russia was striking U.S. biolabs, and they say, oh, it's all fake, it's all fake. That way, when someone says, oh, but Ukraine does have biolabs, people assume it's the same story, and they're actually quite different. So we will take our time debunking the actual fake news and showing you this testimony about actual biolabs in Ukraine, which I think is significant, because if we're trying to understand how to end this conflict with peace and negotiations, diplomacy, we kind of need to know what the complaints are from the people who invaded. Granted, I think Putin is in the wrong completely. He invaded, but it makes sense to understand the full context of the story. So we'll get into that. Joe Biden has banned oil and energy, all energy imports from Russia. Gas has set a new record high, and everyone's basically saying it's going to get a whole lot worse. And Stephen Colbert says, what's a couple bucks for a clean conscience? A couple bucks per gallon, that is. So for all of you who have to commute to work and don't make that much money, maybe you're making 15 bucks an hour, congratulations. It's going to cost twice as much to fill up the gas tank, but it's okay. You'll have a clean conscience. So we're going to talk about all that stuff. We also got the parental rights and education bill in Florida passing. Democrats call that the Don't Say Gay bill, which is a complete and total lie and fabrication because the bill has barely anything to do with that subject matter. It's funny. The bill mostly is like if a kid has any kind of medical issue, the parents have to be told. That's basically it. It's like things that happen in school, parents need to be told about it. And so now all of a sudden Democrats are marching around saying gay over and over again. It's kind of weird. But we'll get into that. Joining us to discuss these issues today is Greg Price. How's it going, man?
I'm good. It's good to be back on. I'm Greg Price. I'm with a company called X Strategies LLC. We are advisors and digital strategists for a bunch of conservative politicians and nonprofits and super PACs, and we work to elect America First candidates and unelect the rhinos. The CEO of our company today had to testify before the sham January 6th committee. Shout out to Alex Brusiewicz for having to suffer through that today, too.
Yeah, and Enrique Tarrio got arrested for conspiracy on January 6th, even though he wasn't there. They're claiming that he was involved in planning or something.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. They're hauling people before this committee who had nothing to do with the riot at the Capitol, and they're trying to simply criminalize everyone that supported President Trump.
Well, they're saying on average, a response to the subpoena for the January 6th committee costs $100,000.
Yeah, they're wasting your tax dollars.
No, your money. You need to hire a lawyer and spend $100,000 of your personal money to answer the subpoena.
Yeah, that's true. Alex had to do that, and it's been really terrible for him. And that's what they're doing. They're just going after all of these people that had nothing to do with it, but simply supported Donald Trump.
I also forgot to mention McDonald's is shutting down over 800 locations in Russia too. So
Golden Arches theory.
Golden Arches,
because they know two countries that have McDonald's won't go to war with each other.
Not true,
it's
but
a fact.
Sure.
Yeah. No, that's why they're doing it. It's a fact. Fact. Seamus Coughlin of Freedom Tunes, by the way, happy to be here. Uploaded a new cartoon today about our military preparing for World War III and the LGBTQ diversity policies. I think you guys might enjoy it if you want to go check that out. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I was just looking at average California gas prices now are $5 a gallon from LA Times with an image of a $6.30 gas. So like you could have said it was over $6. I just the way that they're framing the media.
It's $7 in LA.
I saw $7.60.
But
for
their
one
consciences are really clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, for now.
Yeah.
I think people don't realize that vehicles in California are on good intentions.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So all those clean consciences.
Love will get you to your destination.
Right.
Your conscience is going to be, and I'm sure Colbert's conscience is going to be really clean when food becomes all but entirely unaffordable for poor people because gas prices have gone up and it's more difficult to get food at grocery stores.
People don't realize this is why they virtue signal so much, so they can power their vehicles.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's right.
When emotions.
When you pay...
The word motion is in the word emotion.
When you're...
Ian's right. Ian cracked the code.
When you're paying $70 for a tank of gas and your grocery bill goes up by $1,000 a month, all you need to do is think to yourself, at least we're helping Ukraine.
Yes.
That's what it's all about, man.
Yeah,
that's right.
true.
We got Lydia President Bones.
I'm also here in the corner. I'm excited for tonight's conversation because I spent most of the day very upset about the price of gas. I saw that it went up 8 cents a gallon overnight in Colorado, and it hit a new record here as well. So hopefully I'll be able to keep calm and we'll be able to make some good progress tonight.
But before we get started, head over to timcast.com, become a member to help support all of our fierce and independent journalists who are reporting the news every single day. And as a member, you get access to exclusive Timcast IRL shows. We put those up Monday through Thursday at 11 p.m., so we will have one for you tonight. And my friends, tomorrow is my birthday, so you can get us a birthday present by signing up. And I will remind you again tomorrow if you want to help support the show. And that's a great birthday present. No, you don't have to, but we really do appreciate it if you help keep this machine operating. So don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and let's jump into the first story. It is but a tweet from Glenn Greenwald, who says, Ukraine has biological research facilities, says Undersecretary of State Victoria Nuland, when asked by Senator Rubio if Ukraine has biological or chemical weapons, and says she's worried Russia may get them. But she says she's 100% sure that if there's a biological attack, it's Russia. And actually, Marco Rubio intervened in her answer to answer for her. And it is one of the most disgusting things. Marco Rubio, man, talk about a bad person. But let me play for you this clip because this is truly revealing.
Well, I only have a minute left. Let me ask you, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
I'm sure you're aware that the Russian propaganda groups are already putting out there all kinds of information about how they've uncovered a plot by the Ukrainians to release biological weapons in the country and with NATO's coordination. If there's a biological or chemical weapon incident or attack inside of Ukraine, is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians that would be behind it?
There is no doubt in my mind, Senator, and it is classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
Wow. If there was anything that could remove all confidence I had in what Victoria Nuland was saying, it's Marco Rubio teeing up the answer to her. Of course, if there is an attack, it's Russia, right? You agree it's Russia? Yes. Okay, then. Yo, just let her answer the questions. But I digress. Here we have Undersecretary of State saying, well, there's BioLabs in Ukraine, and we're concerned Russia could get them. Now, let's just put aside anything outside of this, because there were conspiracies. I don't know anything outside of that. Let me just say, is it a serious concern for us in the United States that Ukraine has BioLabs? What are they researching? I don't know. What if Russia gets a hold of them? Is there something there that we should be concerned about? Is this maybe why Vladimir Putin says I'm going into Ukraine? Because that was what a lot of people were saying. Now, that's not a conspiracy theory. If you are speculating that the motive of Vladimir Putin was to gain access to research facilities, I'd say that's war. Like if you have a military base and another country invades to gain control of that base, I'd be like, okay. So is that maybe what we're looking at?
Well, I just want to mention something about Secretary of State Nuland here. She's a very interesting figure. So one thing that she mentioned in 2013 is that the United States government had spent over $5 billion trying to promote democracy in Ukraine. And there was a leaked phone call between her and America's ambassador to Europe where she was discussing who she thought would be a good leader for Ukraine. And wouldn't you know, it just happens by coincidence, a couple weeks later, that person becomes prime minister.
Huh.
And yeah. And so we talk about how Russia spending and not even Russia, non-state actors in Russia spending $46,000 on Facebook ads was a quote-unquote act of war. And the United States government has thrown literal billions of dollars at Ukraine to influence their leadership. This woman was on the phone, on record, saying there was a specific person she wanted in charge of government there. That person ends up in that position weeks later. And I'm supposed to trust this person, that they have the best interest of that nation in mind, and that she's going to tell me about Russia's nefarious deeds.
The CIA just overthrew. I mean, they were part of a coup of
in
when they put in Poroshenko. And yeah, I mean, that's just on the table now.
How do you know?
2014. Everything I look at says there's overwhelming evidence the United States, now that we've accepted that the CIA has been involved with the overthrow, and I'm like, is there evidence that says that
we need that? That's not.
So it's not. Every time
No.
I ask it, they're like, yeah, it's totally confirmed.
To who?
Well, I thought you on the show like last week. We
No,
talked
it was heavily speculated. First of all, there were major protests in Ukraine. It is widely speculated, believed the West was well. First of all, it's a fact. The West was very much supporting the Euromaidan protests. That doesn't mean the U.S. made Yanukovych flee. There's a big difference between the CIA actually having agents and assets going in and doing these things. Now, that being said, I would not be surprised in any sense that the CIA did this. I want to be very, very careful and precise because
I
we're dealing
what
with
I'm saying then.
because we're dealing with the fact that the undersecretary just said there are biolabs. Okay, let's start from there. Is Russia pissed about that? Very well, maybe. Now we have this story from USA Today. This is why getting the fact perfect is important. They say fact check. False claim of U.S. biolabs in Ukraine tied to Russian disinformation campaign. So right there, you have interesting points. U.S. biolabs. Okay, well, they're Ukrainian, according to Victoria Nuland. She said Ukraine has biolabs. So you see how they do this. They slap U.S. biolabs in front of biolabs, and all of a sudden the whole story's fake.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. They fact check a different story than the one that's actually being discussed, and then anytime the story comes up, they get to slap false on it.
So here's what they say. The claim: there are biolabs in Ukraine funded by the U.S. government. Now, I will say we read on this show a U.S. government site talking about U.S. funded research in biolabs in Ukraine. So I don't know what that was all about. They say in the early morning hours, Putin launched a full-scale military, blah, blah, blah. Similar posts claimed Russia destroyed 7 of the 11 supposed labs in missile strikes. The claims are wrong. Independent fact-checking outlets reported. I actually don't think those claims are true, to be honest, because we looked at the map of missile strikes and the map of labs, and they don't line up. It's weird that people would make that claim when all you need to do is say Putin's mad about labs.
He's probably blowing up stuff near the labs so that he can take the labs.
I would assume Russia wants the biolabs, as Nuland actually said in front of Marco Rubio.
Regarding of
Russia would seize them.
If it's war or not, I think historically you see border skirmishes that aren't considered war. Like if an enemy is setting up artillery on the border, on the other side of the border from your country, you may send in a party to destroy the artillery and then come back. And it's not really an act of war. It's more of just like, or sometimes they'd go in and they'd steal food from like the enemy, but it wasn't really war.
You ready for this part of the same article?
Oh, yeah.
The same article says the Ukrainian and U.S. governments partnered in August 2005 to prevent the proliferation of dangerous pathogens and related expertise and to minimize potential biological threats, according to the treaty. Interfax Ukraine reported in May 2020 that part of the agreement was aimed at modernizing state laboratories in the Odessa, Kharkiv, Lviv, Kiev, Vinnytsia, Kherson, and Dnipropetrovsk regions.
Whoa.
I'm trying. Those efforts included making repairs, updating equipment, and purchasing supplies. The Security Service of Ukraine said the laboratories financed from the state budget are subordinate to the Ministry of Health and the State Services on Food Safety and Consumer Protection, according to Interfax Ukraine. The U.S. Embassy in Ukraine sought to set the record straight on these biolabs claim in April 2020, calling the theories disinformation spreading in some circles in Ukraine that mirrors Russian disinformation regarding the strong U.S.-Ukrainian partnership to reduce biological threats. It sure sounds like they're trying really hard to claim that although the U.S. did partner and help Ukraine with a lot of the work they were doing in certain biological areas, these are not U.S. biolabs. Yeah, no, that's true. They're not. They're Ukrainian, but is the U.S. involved? I'd sure like to know.
Well, usually they hire a company like EcoHealth Alliance to get involved for them so that they can wipe their hands of it.
Well, yeah, what's with our country and like funding all of this insane biological research around the globe, as you know, we saw with the Wuhan lab too. And I think, you know, this goes back to, the way this war has been presented to us in the media is that, you know, Ukraine is the good guys who can do no wrong, and we have to take the government of Ukraine's word over anything else. And as we've seen, we've been fed so many lies as this war has happened, between, you know, imminent nuclear meltdown that turned out to be false, as Zelensky was calling for a no-fly zone. And I think it just goes back, when you're in a war, propaganda is very important, and propaganda to help your side win is very important. And a lot of that is just being fed to us by our media.
I want to read the last portion of this article. They say, because this is interesting. Based on our research, we rate false the claim that there are U.S. biolabs in Ukraine funded by the U.S. government. The posts misrepresent a treaty between the United States and Ukraine aimed at preventing biological threats. The labs are owned and funded by the Ukrainian government. The Security Service of Ukraine and the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine have said the claim is false. Reports indicate the claim is tied to a years-long Russian disinformation campaign aimed at discrediting the U.S. Okay, fair. I totally accept all of that. Okay, so Ukraine does have biolabs.
Right.
So when the narrative came out that Russia was concerned about biolabs in Ukraine, that was legitimate?
Yep.
Like, is Russia really concerned about that? All right. sorry, everybody, that they're spreading this disinformation. How about we just talk about the truth, that there are biological research facilities in Ukraine and that Russia wants to seize them.
Well, because
or the U.S. fears Russia will.
Yeah, well, like I said on our last episode, the only time you need to really come in with these fact checks is if there's some kernel of truth that you don't want people discussing. That seems to be the case very often. Maybe I'm being a little hyperbolic, but we see it frequently. And I will say this, after the last 5 or 6 years, it is absolutely laughable that they think they would have any credibility talking about biological laboratories, bioweapons labs, and where they're getting their funding, and B, Russian disinformation. It doesn't exactly bolster my confidence in the veracity of their claims that they're using that phrase.
Look at this. We have the story from Bloomberg. This is funny. China pushes Russia conspiracy theory about U.S. labs in Ukraine. Russia wouldn't just put Russian. I don't know why they labeled it that way, titled it that way. Foreign ministry urged U.S. to name viruses stored in labs.
I wonder
Beijing
if the word
has yet to call Russia's military action an invasion.
I bet the word Russia gets better clicks, better internet search results than
That's
Russian.
Right. That's why they did it.
You a fan of that BioLab? Name 3 of their viruses. Sorry.
Yeah.
And this is literally the same. These are the same types of headlines that we saw at the beginning of the COVID pandemic when people were pushing the lab leak theory. I'll never forget the one from the Washington Post when they literally said Tom Cotton is repeating a conspiracy theory about COVID that has already been debunked.
Right.
Like this is the same exact game plan that they did when COVID started with the lab, when they covered for the lab leak from China.
What I'm starting to notice is when you debunk something, it doesn't mean that it wasn't right.
Well, the difference today between disinformation and something that's true is only a couple weeks or months now.
Or
Yep.
days, yeah.
Well, yeah,
or
that's
even days
right.
in this case.
BioLabs itself was a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
But it's because what they do is, if you bring up to a journalist, what's up with these biolabs in Ukraine? They immediately retreat to the mott and go like, oh, U.S. doesn't have biolabs in Ukraine. It's like, whoa.
That's not what
I didn't say U.S.
Right.
I said, what's up with these biolabs? So what happens is you'll get a regular person. And like I've experienced this. It's really funny. People shouldn't play games with me because I know what I'm talking about. And I'll say something and they'll, this is a really good example. So I'll give you a hypothetical, but because I don't want to violate anyone's privacies, but so you'll say something like, did you guys hear about, you'll be at a party and you'll be like, did you hear about these biolabs in Ukraine now? Now they're confirming it. Russia, of course, probably is not happy with it. And then someone goes, there's no U.S. biolabs in Ukraine. You're making that up. And then I'm just like, I never said U.S. A regular person, though, might be like, of course there, I was reading about it. And then they'll pull up on their phone and they'll say, there are no U.S. biolabs. See, everybody, he was wrong. That's what they'll do. And people will conflate these stories and not realize it.
My favorite
Don't play
thing-
games with me because I'm going to be like, I didn't say U.S.
My favorite
Get
part
out
is
of
that
here.
that's the stuff you talk about at parties.
It's
so
well,
Are you
important.
serious?
No,
Of course
I am serious. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
of
it.
course I do.
Also-
I walk
Yes.
into a party, I grab a beer, I'm like, how about that biolab? And everyone's like, oh, yeah, and we're all drinking.
I just got to say, I really hope they're not eating bat soup in Ukraine.
Seriously.
Because that's the most logical explanation of where biological weapons
That's where it
come
came
from,
from.
right? You were a conspiracy theorist if you thought that the virus, which was first infecting people right near a biological weapons research lab, was made in a biological weapons research lab instead of coming from a bat.
So what happens is you've got all these labs in Ukraine, and China's saying, like, tell us what viruses are in it. In like a month, all of a sudden, there's like 12 new viruses that emerge in Ukraine. And then the mainstream media goes, that was an armadillo. That one was a pangolin.
Ukraine's bat
That one was a
infestation
seagull."
problem is out
No,
of
it's
control.
got to be a different animal for each
animal.
different virus that
But
emerges
the-
from the biolab.
But the sad thing is it's serious. Like when I was at the Daily Caller back when COVID first started, we were one of the first news outlets that ran stories about the potential for that this virus came from a lab, and we got dinged on Facebook for it. The way Facebook works is the way you get one of those fact checks on your post.
Yep.
Is a fact checker has to write an actual story. One of their certified fact checkers has to write a story about your post, and you get dinged. And if you get a certain amount of them, you get your account demonetized. We got one for running lab leak stories. Like, this is the media and big tech and the deep state working together to suppress information that they don't want the public to know.
But they apologized, of course, right?
Oh
They
well, yeah.
apologized.
Eventually, eventually when it all came out.
Oh, I'm kidding. They actually did? That's
Well,
impressive.
no, they didn't
Remember,
apologize.
oh,
No, of
okay.
course they didn't
Yeah, look at
apologize.
that.
But
Look
when
at
the
that.
info finally came out that actually there is merit to the lab leak story, they stopped the censorship.
Remember when what was that guy's name? Andy Stone is the guy from Facebook. He's on Twitter. And he's like, the Hunter Biden laptop story is, disinformation over. So we're suppressing it to make sure it can't be shared. And then Twitter did. And then like a month later, they're like, oh, that story was real. Like they publicly brag about suppressing pertinent information to an election.
And
It happens.
And that guy too used to work for the DCCC and Barbara Boxer and a bunch of other Democrats too. So you had this Democrat comms guy who now works at Facebook talking about how they're censoring a story that's unfavorable to the then Democrat candidate for president.
You know what concerns me right here is that there's going to be a leak. This is the narrative. Okay, the two biggest fears in the world right now, COVID and Russia. That there's going to be a leak in Ukraine, and they're going to blame it on Russia, and it's going to be another pandemic.
Well, so that's exactly what we heard with Marco Rubio just in the other segment. Rubio saying there's no doubt in your mind, Ms. Nuland, that if there's a biotech, it is Russia. Yes.
The priming.
Now, if something happens, they're gonna be like, "We told you it was Russia. Time for us to
Dude,
invade."
the
This is
confluence
Marco.
of events.
Marco Rubio.
Yo,
and
yo,
no
yo.
one said it was going to be Russia.
How conspiratorial do you want to get?
Very.
70%.
Remember when
80%.
Bill Gates recently was talking about weaponized smallpox?
Yeah.
What was that
No.
story again?
What an odd thing to talk
Yeah,
about.
you want
Odd
to
thing
pull it up
say.
real
Yeah,
quick? See if you can
see
pull
what
it
we
up.
can find.
There was a story where it was like Bill Gates was talking about treatment for like weaponized smallpox.
He's like, we speculated it would evolve from a bat.
Yeah.
Well, it's got to be a different animal. They're gonna
Yeah.
be like, this time it's a penguin.
It's like, look at these penguins. They're going to give us weaponized smallpox.
It was a hamster.
The penguins will fight back.
Yeah,
Hamster
this is
soup.
Bill Gates warns of weaponized smallpox just after FDA approves his new pox drug. This is from November 29th, 21. 2021.
So that was actually recently. So this is The Independent. Yeah, so we have it right here. Bill Gates warns of smallpox terror attacks as he seeks research funds.
Yeah.
Now, look, this just
Sus.
could be, him being like, I'd like money, please.
Yeah.
Or maybe we should pay attention to what powerful global elites are saying about stuff when you have people like Rubio saying there could be a bio attack.
So it could be a smallpox thing.
I don't know. I don't know if these things are connected. I don't like speculating.
I just want to get on the record saying it now so that in 6 months, if it does happen, people know that I was thinking it.
I'll put it this way. You can take it the pessimistic, nefarious route and assume Bill Gates knows something, or we can trust Bill Gates. He warned us about weaponized smallpox. Now we're hearing Russia might do a bio attack.
Dude, Bill Gates was
is
funding
right.
Eco Health Alliance, which was working.
Can
he was-
you
he
think
was
of a more
funding-
trustworthy?
Oh, did you not? Is that not on the?
I don't know.
I thought he was for sure. Is that not right?
I know that the NIH was, but
And he
was
was-
Bill Gates doing it?
Oh,
I don't know. I don't know. That's you got to be
Yeah,
very
our
careful.
government
Yeah,
does.
man. I
Gotta be
keep
very
my-
precise.
I got to keep my mouth shut.
You
You guys are really
I'm not saying you're
smart.
wrong.
You
I'm
could
saying
get-
you fact check it.
You could get fact checked for it.
Yeah.
No, but like let's make sure we're accurate.
Yeah,
was
I wanna find
was
this
Bill
out.
Gates in any way providing funding to Eco
Yeah,
Health?
Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
They did.
I'm looking at it now.
See if you can find anything. So I'm going to put it this way. I'm going to give Bill Gates the benefit of the doubt, even though I don't like the guy, and say, okay, maybe he's right and knows something about the potential terror attacks.
Yeah, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation committed a $1.5 million grant to the Eco Health Alliance in 2020.
See, there you were right. Ian.
Yeah,
You know, I was just saying, just
You're
make sure you
correct.
fact check it because we got to be very precise.
I knew that, so
Yeah.
I wanted to let it find out. So we knew that.
We were just testing Ian.
Checking.
That info comes from influencewatch.org.
But is
That's a
that
good
a legitimate
Is that a
source?
legit
I don't know how to
website?
check. I don't
Yeah.
have.
Let's see.
It's a nonprofit.
Influencewatch.org.
I don't know. They're talking about an
gonna check
Eco
it out.
Health.
Bill Gates celebrates
Oh, is that-
collaboration with NIH.
From gatesfoundation.org also. Is that right?
Let me see.
They're pretty
All right,
overt
well,
about it.
there you go. I mean, honestly, it's not far fetched to believe that Bill Gates is providing this financial assistance to this organization. I mean, he talks about vaccines all
Oh
the
yeah,
time.
it's on the
and-
Gates Foundation website
Well, there
to
you go.
support India's Ministry of Animal Husbandry, whatever.
So let's just go ahead and say maybe Bill Gates, when he warns of smallpox terror attacks, kind of knows something we don't. I'm not saying he's malicious. I'm not
Right.
saying it's a conspiracy. I'm saying maybe he's right. Maybe he's right, and we should be worried. I'll just tell you this. Whatever you want to believe, that there's a grand cabal planning these things and Bill Gates is involved, or Bill Gates is a superhero who's saving people, there seems like a risk of smallpox terror attacks. So I don't know what you do. Do you just, buy emergency food and hide
Buy
underground?
emergency food.
Yes, hide your
I'm
face.
going-
With tunes,
I'm
obviously.
gonna buy some shipping containers and bury them and crawl into it and
Die.
You know what? I've heard shipping containers are not the way to go though, because they cave in.
Yeah, and they're also
they're
very
not
dirty.
made. They're not really made to
Right.
sustain weight.
geodesic
Top down.
domes, right,
Yeah.
Ian?
Yeah, but they leak. That's the biggest problem with them. I've been doing a lot of research on those too.
Okay, how about we get giant floating domes?
Well, so you know what the real
Suspended
flex
by
is?
massive
You
hot air
vacuum them
balloons.
out. You create like
There we go.
Well, you got to live in it.
No,
You create a chamber. It's like a boat. You vacuum out the boat area of it so it floats.
The real flex is not that you go to an underground layer when it hits the fan. It's that you force your enemies into an underground layer.
Yeah.
Can we make something strong enough to withstand a large enough vacuum to actually float on
Yeah, I think
air?
it's going to be a metamaterial like aerogel.
Graphene.
Yeah, like a graphene aerogel. And then what you do is you create a bunch of little pockets of holes inside of this boat, and then you vacuum out all these little pockets of holes. So you've got like a lighter than air thing. And then if it's big enough, it should be able to carry people and farms and stuff.
So that so it would be
Floating
as a
island.
whole, it would be it's not the mass, it's the displacement of gases.
And then you strap an ion thruster on it and fly it around.
What do you think,
Ian's
Greg?
onto Something.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I don't know, but Lydia, I just back to our topic, or talking about BioLabs. Check out the tweet that I just DM'd you. It's
Back to reality.
It's
Yeah.
it's a guy writing for Foreign Policy, and it's foreignpolicy.com, like, the preeminent foreign policy magazine, and
Right.
he says Russia helped create and is now actively amplifying a conspiracy theory claiming the invasion of Ukraine is being done to destroy U.S.-run bioweapons facilities. And he says the wildest part, people believe it.
Yeah, so this is from March 2nd. So it's
Yeah,
Really?
a
So-
few days
ago, and now it's
now
getting,
we know
and
it's
now,
true,
now it's
right?
getting but this is the thing, it's like, foreign policy that's that's held up as like this, by the establishment as this,
What's,
this trustworthy news outlet.
That's
and
the title, yeah.
This is it. False claims of U.S. biowarfare labs in Ukraine grip QAnon.
QAnon.
Right. Well, look, I got no problem saying I don't see why we have to talk about U.S. biolabs or whatever.
Right,
like
sure,
if you want to fact check that, like by all means, I'm not. If Ukraine has biolabs, sounds like it's a fact because Victoria Nuland said they did. Now the question is this a motivating factor for Russia? I don't know, because Russia, their demands of Ukraine are give them Donbass, give them Crimea, and don't join NATO or the EU.
Right.
I didn't see any demands from Russia where they were like, get rid of these biolabs.
Interesting.
So I think the story could be a stretch to say the least. But I just love how they this is a trick. Look, if you've been watching the show for some time, you know the trick, because I tell you all the time. You'll have Ian, and he'll do a backflip, and the media will write, did Ian really do a backflip on Sunday?
Yeah.
False.
Yeah.
While Ian did do a backflip, it was actually at midnight on Saturday, which is technically not Sunday. Although technically it is. We rate this claim false.
Yeah.
It was
Technically.
11:59 and 58 seconds by the atomic clock standard. Unfortunately for Ian, his clock was
It
2 minutes
was
fast.
actually Monday in Australia when he did the backflip
Yeah.
on Sunday. False. Partly true.
Partly true.
Right.
It's not a U.S. lab, or Ukrainian labs, and then they're not biowarfare labs. They're just BioLabs. So if you put biowarfare, it's going to be called false too,
Right.
according
You
to
see
the
these-
girl that
you see
said-
these games they're playing with this stuff.
Sneaky.
Yeah.
Man, I love this one.
Extremely sneaky.
PolitiFact just goes nuts with it. Bloggers say Putin bombs Biden-owned villa in Ukraine while hammering biolabs in pedo rings.
Whoa.
What? All right, well, I'm going to give you that one, PolitiFact. That sounds like...
Saying that is a little.
This is the problem. It's because there'll be like a guy wearing like a nice suit, and he'll be like, I'm concerned about these biolabs in Ukraine. And then there'll be like a crazy guy with a tinfoil hat next to him going like, you're right, the U.S. is funding them and there's pedos. And then the
Yeah.
fact checker goes, I'm going to run with that one.
Or those two people actually hate each other in real life, but the media associates them with one another,
Right.
as is the case with the infamous conspiracy theory pyramid that I reviewed and debunked on my channel. The whole
there's-
point is you want to link people who have basically nothing in common other than the fact that they're questioning the official narrative.
There's a comic that's being shared by all of these leftists, and it's the weirdest thing. And it shows a guy sitting on a couch with what appears to be his wife or something. And he's got a shirt with an American flag, and he's wearing a red hat. And I'm like, gee, I wonder what that's supposed to symbolize. And he's watching the news, and he says, Russia says they're just taking back what's rightfully theirs. And then the woman goes, Alaska was Russia's, 60 years ago or something. And I'm like, is this implying that the America First anti-interventionist populist MAGA people are like defending Russia's invasion of Ukraine? Like, I don't understand. Like, it makes no sense.
You can try to do an honest analysis of Putin's motives and reject a lot of the propaganda coming from the warfare state and the industrial military complex and their lackeys in the media without supporting Putin or his invasion.
Right. Well, Tim, to your point, what they're doing is exactly what you say. They can't find anyone in real life who actually supports Putin. They can't find Republicans who support Putin. So they have to create this little comic. This is the whole of Twitter is imagining someone and then getting mad at that person.
Right.
Like that person literally doesn't exist, but you're going to sling bows and arrows at him because it's easier.
The best they can do is find Republicans who Putin supports, at least according to them.
Right, exactly. They're trying. They're really trying. And it's kind of sad because there are actually real things that we could be working toward fixing together, but no, it has to be Russia. And even
No,
now,
we don't have any problems that need
Yeah.
fixing
Oh,
right
you're
now,
right.
Lydia.
Yeah, you're right. I
We're
don't
good.
know what I'm thinking.
Let's crank this up to 11.
Well,
Daily
hey-
Mail says U.S. official warns cornered Russian leader could use small nukes on Ukrainian cities in worst case scenario after Kremlin officials privately denounce Putin's cluster F invasion with his forces bogged down in snow and minus 20 C freeze on the way. I kind of want to just say at this point, bullish, like
all of it.
they're coming out and they're like, "Bah, bah, bah, bah.
Yeah.
Russia could do a bio attack. There could be nukes. And I'm like, okay, look, hold on.
Spaghetti.
When they talked about the invasion, I said it's starting to sound like Chicken Little, and then there was an invasion. So far be it from me. I have no moral standing at this point to claim Putin won't be using nukes because I was certainly wrong by him invading Kiev. But at this point, I'm just like, yo, you've beaten us over the head screaming about the escalation and Putin is crazy over and over again. Can we just chill for a minute?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the moral of the story of the boy who cried wolf is not that those stupid village people didn't believe him the one time he was telling the truth. Is that he kept lying, and so he lost all of his credibility.
Yep.
And that's the exact case with the media. Maybe this is the one time where they have real information about something that's actually going to happen.
Well, they did phrase it as it
yo.
may.
But it's their fault. It's their fault that people don't believe them because all they do is lie.
Seamus, we can get this project done in a half an hour.
Let's do it.
You should draw up. We'll work together. We'll make a book called The Democrats Who Cried Russia. And it'll be a children's book. Not really. It'll be like a parody.
Yeah.
Where like the first few pages explain Russiagate and how it was all fake.
Yeah.
And then in the end, when the Democrats finally came out and screamed Russia's going to invade, no one believed them.
Yep.
And then Putin invaded and attacked the capital
Let's
of Ukraine.
100% do it.
That would be funny.
100% do it. Yeah, I'd love
The
that.
Democrat who cried Russia. After 7 years, we just didn't care anymore.
Or like
We're like,
the media that cried anything. Right?
yeah.
the media that cried racism or fascism or whatever.
I don't know, you guys. So, look, I don't necessarily think it's wrong. I want to add one thing to this story, too. This idea that Vladimir Putin is dying. So this is something that's been reported over the past several days. They're claiming he's got terminal bowel cancer. And I'm just kind of like, look, he does look a little sickly, but he could be getting old. But to claim that there's scant evidence, it's an anonymous source claiming he's got terminal bowel cancer.
We've had great luck with those anonymous sources over the past
Yeah,
couple of
we
years.
did.
I don't know if I definitely don't believe that either, because did you see the video of Putin that went viral a couple months ago of him playing hockey?
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah. It's really funny because he's playing in a hockey game and all of the other players on the ice are just like letting him score.
Of course.
Letting him like, but I
goals,
mean,
he
he was
scored 8
playing.
goals.
I mean, he was playing. If he could do that, I don't really think that he would be terminally ill.
Yeah, but didn't he also just take time off?
Did he?
No, yeah, a little while ago. He took like a few weeks to a couple months off.
I don't know, but you remember? Do
TV.
you remember like I forget when this was? This was probably over a year ago when there were reports going around that Kim Jong Un was on his deathbed. That was
Right.
CNN
Right.
too.
Yeah.
CNN
Yeah,
was like reporting that
exactly.
it was CNN reporting that Kim Jong Un was on his deathbed and basically just caused an international incident, and that turned out to be false.
You know what's funny? We got these reports about, a cornered Putin will use nukes. A dying Putin is dangerous.
Yeah.
Mad Vlad. And it's just
Yeah.
like, the media is going to
Yeah.
end the world.
Do you guys-
If the world ends, it'll be because there is a hysteria driven by media who wanted that one last click.
Yeah, I've got another example. Do you guys remember the time that the media lied to us about every single thing they ever
Yes.
told us for the
Yes.
entire time they existed?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that was called My Life.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one time. Yeah.
Good time.
I feel like
It's also not just that they lie, it's that they completely ignore real problems that matter a lot more to Americans. So they've been obsessed with this invasion in Ukraine. We have an invasion at our southern border right now, but
Right.
the media
Amen.
portrays that as compassionate, that America that the Biden administration just allows this to happen.
Also, we have an
Seamus.
invasion in Libya and in Iraq that we're perpetrating right now that you don't see much of this talking about it. No, unfortunately.
Seamus, you should do a bit where CNN hires Jesse Smollett. And then everyone's just like, we trust him.
I mean, it's similar.
Most
track record.
believable guy
Yeah.
ever.
Redemption.
Yeah.
It's his
Reliable
redemption arc.
sources.
Yeah.
And he can talk. He can be holding a Subway sandwich as he's always reporting the news.
Reporting live from MAGA country.
Because
Yes.
I'll keep saying it every single time. Like right now, I can just be like the media that the people who believe Jussie Smollett are lecturing me about BioLabs in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen this time, ladies and
So
gentlemen.
the thing about
Sorry.
these news articles, this says Western intelligence suggests. So they're not saying that it's real. They're just pointing out that the intelligence suggests it. And then the other one is like he may use or he could use
people-
nukes.
well,
Like,
look,
obviously he could
people-
grow lasers out of his arms and shoot them too.
People familiar with the matter have
Right.
said that Putin might use nukes.
Yeah,
My
might.
favorite thing is people familiar with a person's thinking.
Yeah.
Like, how does that make?
Well, I'm familiar with the media's thinking, and I think they're completely full of it.
I'm
Yes.
familiar with Ian's thinking, and I'm reporting that he plans on buying rocks.
He may be right.
He may,
Yeah,
I'm reporting Ian may be
But-
rolling a 20 at some point.
Let me give a shout out
yeah,
to our.
like,
Possibly true.
I just remembered a great example of one of those stories. I got to give a shout out to my friend Ben Williamson, who used to work for Mark Meadows. And there was a story like a little while ago when the media was like someone familiar with Mark Meadows' thinking, and Ben is like it was his senior advisor, and he just goes, with all due respect to the person familiar with his thinking, this story is bullshit.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to give a shout out to our good friends at Daily Wire, who very, very carefully crafted this headline in two ways. Mad Vlad, Western intelligence suggests Putin terminally ill, reports. So what they're basically saying is, first of all, we're not saying he's terminally ill, and those who are claiming it are only kind of claiming it. So the
Right.
Daily Wire has really hedged this article quite a bit.
Yeah.
Basically, it seems like everybody's kind of like, I don't think he's sick. You know, I got to be honest, though. I mean, maybe. Regardless of whether or not he's actually got bowel cancer or anything like that, dude is 69.
Yeah.
Average life expectancy is what, 72?
In Russia,
I imagine it's a
lower, I
stressful
think.
freaking job too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I exactly. I'd imagine in Russia it's probably lower, right? Maybe
Yeah,
it's
it
more.
is
I don't need
lower.
someone Google that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pull it up. But it's
I think
lower.
there's a good possibility. It's not necessarily about him being terminally ill, but him being like, I'm old, and before I pass, I'm going to see Russia, return to its former glory.
It could also be him understanding that he is never going to have the opportunity of a leader as completely inept as Joe Biden being in office ever again. He probably knows that Joe is not going to last the full term. So he wants to get it taken care of now.
Looks like Russian life expectancy 66 years old for a man, 77 for a woman.
Whoa! So
66,
he's past his
Yeah,
his
he's
average
That
age.
was World Health Organization.
Going
data.
off what Seamus just said, what was that article you were showing me right before the show where like the Saudi about how they did, people like just didn't take?
Yeah.
I'm
So
trying to
I
remember what it
guess,
was.
Hold on one sec. I think that Biden was trying to make a call to Putin, and he wouldn't take a call from Putin, but he did take a call from the UAE, or the UAE took calls from Putin or whatever. Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
Yeah, it's wild.
Wait,
There's
so
no
Putin
respect.
denied Biden's call?
Yes.
Come on, man, you got a soul, man.
It's wild.
But
This guy's mean.
There's a 0% chance that ever happened.
No,
too. There's
but
no
also,
chance.
I was
Maybe he
saying this
said-
the other day.
thought he
The
said
thing
that.
I love about that story is Biden thinks it makes him look good to say like, I went to that foreign leader and I called him mean.
you have no soul, man. And
I
then
think that's what I said.
Russia's like, is that it?
Man.
It's like,
That's all he's
okay,
got? Yeah.
it's like well, you kind of want your adversaries to think you're mean, don't you?
Yeah.
There's also so many of those like similar stories with Biden where he claims he did all of these things
I know.
that he never he always claims that he like marched. He was arrested while protesting with Nelson Mandela.
Right. I'm like,
that
what?
never happened.
What's happening?
He's like, oh man, I was there, but it's the Mandela effect, man. You guys, you all remember
gotta
different.
be there to experience
Oh,
different.
this would be a great short film.
Is
Yeah.
Biden's Mandela
All
effect
these-
thing, and it's
yeah,
all
no.
actually happened.
All these stories are real. Check it out. The corn pop story, the Mandela story.
He also-
hold on. The speech he gave in the 80s.
Yeah.
But then something happened with the Large Hadron
Time
Collider.
shift.
Yes.
And then Joe Biden's like standing there. And
I'm
all
a
of sudden,
victim of
like,
time travel, man.
A rift opens up and he's like, whoa, come on, man. And then he gets sucked through into a reality where he didn't do any
of
of
that
these things.
Bro, Putin banged his straight razor on the curb to get it
That's
rusty.
right.
Put it in a rain barrel to get it rusty, and then
It wasn't
Let's,
just a
let's,
dream.
let's,
Joe Biden.
let's pitch to the Daily Wire a sci-fi about Joe Biden traveling through the multiverse.
It's Interstellar, but just with Joe Biden.
Yeah. Yes.
oh my gosh,
And like
Oh my
for some
God.
reason he's interacting like Matthew McConaughey is the same role doing the same things, but it's Joe Biden in every other capacity. Just for some
Gosh, yes.
reason. Come on,
Amazing.
man! Traveling through other dimensions.
no malarkey.
That's
He
right.
comes from a universe where
Mandela
people like
effect.
still frequently use the phrase malarkey, and that's why it's
Really
his
old
He's
universe.
fighting everything he's doing. All these wars are because he's trying to restore the original timeline, and Vladimir Putin's trying to stop him. So it was like Putin and Biden met at a young age and worked together, and then had a falling out when the Large Hadron Collider goes off and sends them into different dimensions, and Putin's trying to stop him.
I mean, it could work. It could work as a
do
sci-fi
it.
plot. In his
love it.
universe, having hairy legs is a sign of nobility. That's why got hairy legs.
Something
In
like
his
that.
universe.
They get hairy in the pool.
Oh my gosh.
There's also the one with the Amtrak guy. Have you ever seen this one? He tells this
What's
story.
the story?
So he tells this story all the time. He's told it like a bunch of times. Like when he's
Yeah.
talking about public transportation, about how he says about how he was a senator. He would travel to and from D.C. to Delaware on Amtrak, and like
Yeah.
there was this guy, some Italian dude, I forget his name, who he said like came up to him in like 2019 or something when he was vice president and was like, and he always like fakes the Italian accent, and he's like, he tells him, you know,
So, Mamma mia, man.
and he's like, you know how many miles you traveled on Amtrak? And he like, I forget the number of miles, but it turns out the guy died like 10 years before before that.
I'm telling you, it's the wrong universe.
Oh my god.
I mean, I want to be real with you guys. Biden has like some plates in his brain, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
does he
Yeah.
really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he has like
Oh, I didn't know that.
stint things.
He had like two aneurysms or something.
He did, yeah.
So it's like honestly, maybe the real story is much more sad.
It is
That
sad.
His brain is just
No,
not working.
It's genuinely sad. It's genuinely sad, but it's also terrible and worthy of ridicule that he's president of the United States and that no one's willing to acknowledge that he has severe psychological and cognitive deficits.
Well, that's just a stutter, you know.
Yeah, no, it's a stutter. No, that's
Yeah,
my
it's
point, dude. Have you ever had like a stutter that forces you to plagiarize somebody else's
Yeah,
speech?
that's
It's so
the
weird when that
big
happens.
problem, yeah.
Do you remember, dude? Oh my gosh, remember that one time that I said poor kids are just as bright and talented as white kids? It's like I stutter all the time. It's
Joe
so
Biden
horrible.
is like, I want to tell you about this. There's nothing to fear but fear itself that we have. And it's like,
Yeah.
wait, what?
That's
He's stuttering.
Yeah,
setting.
he has the kind of Tourette's where you blurt out famous historical quotes.
And
You know, you can't blame him for it.
But what's even sadder is that Kamala Harris is even worse with saying a lot while saying nothing at all.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't
I
it?
She's
love
not
her
like
quotes.
she's not like slurring and misspeaking as often when she does
She
it.
just says shit that makes
Yeah.
no sense.
yeah.
Correct.
She'll say a whole
Tweet 'em.
paragraph and
Yeah.
you'll be like, "There's a
And
lot
you'll
of
be-
words," but I don't know where that.
I don't know
went.
what you just said. I don't think. I don't know. Frankly, I don't think you were telling the truth.
Yeah, I don't know what you
No,
said.
there's no
That's
truth
why.
to be had when you're like stringing random words together.
It's like lips or
She'll be like, "Our children," and when we talk about our children,
Yes.
the schools,
Uh-huh.
it's very important. Freedom. And you're like, what?
Freedom.
I have no idea what that means. But she's standing there and she's talking. What's that meme where it was like International Women's Day? Have you seen this one? It's a grid.
Yes.
No.
And it's like, be brave like Amelia. And at the bottom,
Oh,
it
I
says-
saw that.
It says, speak like Kamala. And people are like, are we really encouraging young girls to speak like Kamala Harris?
Just
Like,
laugh
It's-
maniacally.
It's time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
Oh my gosh,
love
that's
Ukraine,
beautiful.
Ukraine is a country.
Yes.
Russia is a country.
Yes.
Ukraine is a smaller country.
I'm listening.
Russia invaded Ukraine, so basically that's wrong.
Is
Is that what she said?
Yes, she said that. She said that on some like radio show.
Yes, they were like,
And
okay, break this down for
She
the
was
layman.
the guy was. Hold on, let me find the quote. The guy was.
say it is time
guy-
for us to be doing what we do every day.
Let me
and
fi-
that time is now.
Let me find the full quote because it's actually one of the funniest things ever.
love
And
her
like, and I tweeted the video of it that day, and I had so many blue checks who got mad at me for not including the whole thing, even though the whole thing didn't even like make her look that much better. But hold on, let me find this. Yo, here it is. She was like, Ukraine is a country. So the host of the show asked her to break down what's happening in Ukraine in
Right.
layman's terms, and she goes, Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a similar country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
So
That's what
that
she
is
said.
Is that all?
that is a third grader's history report 50 years from
Yeah.
now.
And it's like I
When they
wasn't
didn't do the reading.
Right, exactly.
I wasn't
Little Jimmy, do you want to read your report? My report is on the start of World War III. Ukraine was a big country, but Russia was a bigger country, and Russia's invasion was wrong. That's an A+ right there, if I've ever heard it.
wasn't aware that the average layman in America is a kindergartner.
I know, right?
Yeah,
I was like,
seriously.
so insulting.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Why is Russia? Man, I go into a lot of detail about why Russia's invasion was wrong, and I'm pretty sure the people who listen to me can understand my argument as to why it's wrong, whether they agree or not. Kamala Harris, this is the craziest thing. I suppose you need to understand her audience, Democrat voters. They really do need it dumbed down, I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah,
That
but
is
it's
really
yeah, but
insulting.
she's not. But that's the thing. I guess that's an example of it being dumbed down. But a lot of the times, it's not dumbing things down. It's making them really incoherent.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
What is she saying?
That was like explaining to a 5-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. No, that was a 5-year-old explaining it.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you guys see the little golden book of Kamala Harris?
Oh gosh,
No.
why?
But here's
no,
what's-
yeah, for real. Like, so the little golden books are like the little elf climbed the tree, and then there's one where it's like Kamala Harris is the president because she's a woman or something like that.
What?
Sometimes people like people, and sometimes the media wants to force you to like someone.
No, that's exactly right. And like, you have this woman who is the first black and female vice president, and we're supposed to celebrate this
And
as,
Asian.
and Asian. But we're supposed to celebrate that as like this giant victory for women that Kamala Harris is vice president, even though she was chosen for the job specifically because of her race and gender, right after she dropped out of the presidential race before Iowa because she was polling at 2% in her home state
And earned no delegates.
Yep.
and earned
Yep.
zero
Even
delegates.
Tulsi got one, right?
Yeah, she
And
did,
like
yeah.
in
Even
called
Bloomberg
Joe
got some.
Biden and called Joe Biden a racist and basically said that there was validity to the claims that he was guilty of sexual assault. And then he's like, "You want to be my VP, man?" She's like,
Yes.
"Yeah, of course I do."
You guys
My-
remember the Futurama episode where Leela plays Blernsball?
Yes.
So this one, it's Futurama is amazing, and Leela she keeps hitting the players. It's like baseball, basically. She keeps beating them, and so they're like, "We'll hire her as a novelty act," and she's like, "Wow, the first female Blernsball player." It's like, "Yeah, but you're like a freak show." And she's like, "Wow," and like, that's where we're at, I guess. Like, just be, and then they have Jackie Robinson, I guess, is actually good at the game and says, "You're making us all look bad," so
yeah.
we had to get involved. Kamala Harris may be the first female VP, but like, isn't like that kind of a bad thing because she's making women look bad?
Weren't we told that she's the first president, the first female
Yeah.
president?
Yeah, it's
Like-
true. And Jill Biden said she was president as well.
Yeah,
So at this
exactly.
point, it's canon.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, that's canon.
For the rest of time, women will have to know that the first female vice president of this country was a very incompetent person who was chosen specifically because of her gender. When I like to laugh sometimes, I like to Google back from right after the first Democratic debate in 2019 when Kamala Harris's campaign sold T-shirts with her picture on it when she was a kid that said, "That little girl was me."
Yep.
They sold T-shirts of
So
it.
cringe.
Of her
You know
saying that when she said that to Biden.
I triggered a whole bunch of blue checks because I tweeted that it would be kind of upsetting, or else it would be kind of lame if the first female president gained the office through the death of the president and not through the election of the people of the country. And they all went nuts on me over this, and it was a really weird thing. I'm like, why are you booing? I'm right. You know what I mean? Like, if the first female president is appointed and not elected, that's kind of lame. Like, shouldn't we be like, we've done it. People have elected. They've chosen to vote for this woman, instead of being like, Joe Biden won and he picked her. And then if he gets, incapacitated, she became president. No one picked her. No one voted for her. She was appointed. That would be kind of lame.
Sounds
Tim,
like-
how do you know people didn't vote for Joe Biden because they liked Kamala?
Probably no. To be honest though, I'm sure a lot of people did. A lot of people probably were the feminists and the woke.
Do you
were
think
probably
so?
like,
Because
"Woo."
but this is the thing. Joe Biden picked her to pander to progressives because he promised he was going to pick a woman of color. But basically, every progressive I know really does not like Kamala.
Yo,
Like,
come
they
on, man.
really don't like her.
It's true, but they don't. They claim not to like Joe Biden. They all voted for him.
100%.
Like,
but they're kind of like
here's-
pinching
no,
their
let me tell you
nose
something, let me
while
tell
they
you
do
something.
it.
I remember watching ContraPoints explain why you should vote for Joe Biden. And I remember watching a bunch of progressives explain why you should vote for Joe Biden. And their arguments were always because Trump, X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, of course.
And I remember my explanation for why I personally was voting for Trump. And it was school choice. It was him setting a timeline for getting out of Afghanistan. It was the best economy of our lives in 2019 into 2020. Like, there were real tangible things he was proposing where I was like, I like those things. I don't care about Joe Biden. He's an establishment guy, but I can give you a real argument based on the guy I'm choosing to vote for. For the people who are voting for Biden, they're like, Trump is bad. And I'm like, well, Biden's bad too, but they vote for him anyway.
Well, he's a product of sort of the rabid desire of the media of, permanent Washington to remove Trump from power because he was the biggest threat to the establishment's power that we've ever seen in politics. And that's exactly what they did. I think you'd be very hard pressed to find somebody who voted for Biden because they were very excited to have Joe Biden as president. That's 100% not true.
Yeah.
And they voted for him because they were riled up, because they were convinced that Donald Trump was just this biggest threat to democracy that ever existed. And they weaponized the pandemic against him, the fact that this happened during a pandemic year. And they were basically saying that every COVID death was somebody Donald Trump murdered. And between obviously big tech and the media being extremely biased to one side, between states completely overhauling their voting laws because justifying it because of the pandemic. You had this perfect storm where you have this guy now who is essentially a puppet of the establishment that was threatened by Trump, who's now ruining our country.
Well, it's what you get with Joe Biden, man. Let's talk about this story out of Russia. Let's talk about the escalation. We have this story. McDonald's announces temporary closure.
Oh my.
Over 800 locations in Russia. The fast food giant said it will still pay the salaries of its employees in both Russia and Ukraine. I think we must have an error on the Timcast.com website because this says Maka Oharak.
That's not right.
That's not McDonald's. Oh, I'm kidding. It's in Cyrillic.
I love the Cyrillic D.
It's funny, yeah. The McDonald's. It's like a weird looking A. Doharak. That's what it looks like. It's a cursive R, I guess.
This is just crazy. I mean, Facebook leaves Russia, McDonald's leaves Russia, the big banks leave Russia. Like, they're trying to fix this place.
Yeah, I know.
Seriously.
So a lot of people are joking that like Russia is going to end up being the healthiest place on the planet.
Well, when I was in Chile, it was very disturbing because Diet Coke had been surged into the country basically in the decade prior, and obesity was rampant. It was really disturbing.
I gotta be completely honest. When I heard that McDonald's and Facebook and Google and Apple and MasterCard were all pulling out, I was like, I really would love to experience that right now. Just to like, you wake up and it's quiet. It's just quiet. You walk outside and you look around and you don't hear anything. And then you hear like a woodpecker in the distance and you're like, and that's it? That's the only information. It's just like, oh. So the people in Russia, I'm sure, in all seriousness, are probably, I don't think they're freaking out over McDonald's, to be honest. They're probably worried their ATMs aren't working, or they're probably worried. I think March 9th, tomorrow, is the last day for Visa and MasterCard to work. So they got to switch over. Apparently, the local banks are going to keep facilitating Visa and MasterCards internally, so Visa and MasterCard can't shut that down. So they're probably going to be fine.
Yeah, that's what I meant when I was referring to the big banks, by the way, is Visa and MasterCard pulling out.
But there's like Deloitte, there's like Ernst Young, there's a bunch of big international financial organizations that are cutting off Russia.
There's a lot, like it's not even that too. Like FIFA banned Russia's soccer team from the World Cup.
Yeah,
the CHL
from the video games.
Yeah.
EA.
Dude, they banned cats. They banned Russian cats from competing in.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, of course.
The Canadian,
I get it. Those cats deserve everything they're getting.
That's right.
The CHL, which is the Canadian Junior Hockey League, which is like one of the biggest, junior hockey leagues in the world. They banned Russians from being drafted into the CHL. And I did my part when I was at the bar the other night. Somebody ordered a Moscow Mule, and I immediately just punched him in the face.
Yes, perfect.
Not a true story, Adam.
Ruskies, right? That's going to be the new phrase.
Yeah. What?
Well, I was going to say the real
Ruskies.
blow to Russia right now is that Adidas is shutting down their stores, and we all know that they only wear those tracksuits, right?
It's over.
It's over.
They're done, actually.
No more Russian mafia tracksuits.
This is the Borg attempting to digest the Russian issue.
No, I think it's vomiting it up. All of these like international institutions are leaving Russia. It's like, imagine there's a giant like squid alien creature with its tentacles all over all these countries, and something happened to where they're like pulling away from Russia, and it's finally clearing a path. The vines are being torn away, and now Russia is just like, I mean, these look. If you are one of these people who thinks late stage capitalism is awful, you should probably be happy these companies are pulling out of Russia. Because I got to be honest, I understand making life harder for Russians and affecting their economy is a bad thing. But Google, Facebook, McDonald's going away would not be bad.
It concerns me because if there really was a revolution in the United States, like a good, healthy revolution, that the corporate government, like the global corporations, would just cut us all off.
We would lose McDonald's.
From McDonald's, and our money, our bank accounts, our gas would go up to $90 a gallon or whatever.
That's true. No, you're right.
Well,
I
Ian,
think there's something there.
Just buy an electric car.
Yeah.
It's
just buy electric.
Yeah, just buy an you got 60 grand? No problem. Don't worry about gas, right?
Yeah, you get an electric car.
An energy
you get an electric car.
It's also just like a giant virtue signal too, because these same corporations will never stop doing business in China because they have so much more financial interest in China. Like they're all
read that word.
What about a Taiwan?
What does that word say?
I can't.
Temporarily.
Temporarily. Yeah.
Temporarily.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does that mean?
Until they want to stop, basically.
It means they're not really doing anything.
Yeah,
they're
temporarily.
It's especially funny with FIFA too, because the World Cup this year is literally being held in Qatar. Not exactly a friendly country to human rights.
Aren't there like human bones in the structure of the World Cup stadium?
They're using slave labor to build the stadiums.
And I've heard, this could be wrong. I could be wrong about this, so definitely fact check. I heard when the slaves die, they just push them into the construction of the building and
it's
just build
part of
over
the-
them.
Well, I don't know if that's.
Foundation.
I don't know. I can't.
Google-
I can't
Google
confirm or deny, but I know from my history class that that's what they did to build the pyramids.
Yeah.
And the Great Wall of China.
It's historical precedent.
I don't know if that's true though. I was reading about the pyramids.
Or
Yeah.
I think Great Wall of China is what I meant to say.
Great Wall
Yeah.
makes sense. I mean, it's
Yeah.
massive.
Yeah.
Did you read about that?
Well, I'm for sure seeing forced labor at World Cup Stadium from the BBC in Qatar. This is from 2022.
Yeah, I heard they just like
Yeah.
put the bodies into the construction of the building. Like they just when they're sealing off an area, cementing it, they just dump the body and then they pour the cement over it and be like,
Are
problem
you serious?
solved. I've heard that.
I thought you were being
Fact check me.
hyperbolic. Yeah.
No, legit. Like,
Wow.
I've heard some of those stories, but it could just be propaganda. I
Here's
don't know.
Qatar migrant workers unpaid for months of work on FIFA Stadium. This is from amnesty.org. So people are going and they're not getting paid.
Yeah, so-
Migrants are coming in and getting basically forced slave labor.
Yeah, so hats off to FIFA for banning Russia from their video game while they're about to host the World Cup
Yeah,
in
it's a great
Qatar.
idea.
Hope you guys make some money from the World Cup. 'Cause
Yeah,
that's
I
why
think-
you're doing it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, Guardian says 6,500 migrant workers have died in Qatar since the World Cup awarded.
Is it Qatar or Qatar?
Either.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Depends
it's-
on who you ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like how you can spell healthcare with either a space or all one word.
All right.
Well, it's funny to me that McDonald's is coming out of Russia and they refuse to do anything about China, where they are actually actively racist in their commercials. McDonald's themselves as like company, they basically endorse it. They just go along with it because it's what China wants. Anything China wants, China, I guess, is a much bigger deal than Russia.
And yeah, and like going off that, like obviously we're mad by how expensive gas has gotten due to the fact that the world is sanctioning one of the biggest oil producers in the world. Imagine if China invades Taiwan and all of a sudden all of these same countries are now sanctioning China, which produces like 80% of the ingredients in our medicines and a lot of our semiconductors. Like, I know we complain about the price of gas, but imagine we're sanctioning a country that produces so much of our manufactured goods.
So on the upside, maybe China won't invade Taiwan because they will be sanctioned like this and they'll have total cutoff from the global economy.
So I don't know about that story about bodies being in the stadium because that might have been propaganda to manipulate. But I did see a report that said 34 deaths in the construction of the stadium. Jeez. And now I'm looking at this story about FIFA inundated with 17 million requests for World Cup tickets. Whoa. So it's just kind of like, you know, this is a country that we've heavily criticized that exploits people to an extreme degree. And we're like, yeah, but they're cool. Russia.
It brings a new definition to built on the backs of slaves.
Literally, yeah.
Slavery,
If they're shoved
there's
in
more
there.
slaves alive today than there's ever been, right?
Incredible.
Dude, I was just coming to terms with just accepting the slavery on Earth right now. Like, this plastic was, I mean, these materials, these Apple materials are built by like slave labor in China. I don't know the specifics, but like, okay, use it like fuel to fix the system, but it's horrifying.
It's the way things are, man.
That's screwed up. Yeah.
This is the
We
reality
don't think
of
about it that
the
often.
planet.
We really don't think about the
these-
sweatshop labor that often.
These,
It's horrific.
it's not even necessarily that. It's Americans, and it's mostly these Democrat types don't want to talk about it. They're the ones who get angry and make the comics dismissing any criticism of them, protesting issues that they actually support. Right. So when you have people saying at Occupy Wall Street, like, oh, these billionaire elites, and then they put up a shrine to Steve Jobs, I'm like, don't you see a little hypocrisy there? Like, this is the guy who's exploiting labor. I despise Apple products.
Designed in Cupertino.
I absolutely
Don't you love
despise
that?
Apple. It's like I remember I had a friend who was in college and she was like, my school is making me buy an Apple desktop for design. And I was like, why? And she's like, you have to, otherwise they fail you. And then I was like, except you can get the same powered computer running the Mac OS for a third of the cost if you just build it yourself. And she's like, they won't allow that.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
I'm just like, I absolutely despise this company, man.
No, and as somebody who works in a creative field, who does animation, who's spent a decent amount of time around other animators, there's absolutely no reason that you need to use a Mac to do
Oh,
creative
thank you.
work. That's ridiculous.
But Apple played it really, really smart by making it these college kids would get student loans and they'd spend $1,000 on a $300 computer.
With
And
the
then-
proprietary
and then-
charger and everything.
And it's like, what is the Mac OS? Like a rebranded Unix system?
I don't know, probably. Yeah, I think it is.
And so then all of a sudden you get Occupy Wall Street and they're like, Mac's good. And then we're gonna celebrate, put up a shrine for Steve Jobs.
It's
And I'm
trendy, it
like,
looks
okay,
cool.
You know what, man?
I will say this: the virus thing, man. They don't get viruses.
It's true.
yeah,
they
Mac,
do.
For them.
That's
Mac
a lie.
OS
But
is a
That's
Unix.
a lie, right?
That's a lie. They don't. Well,
Yeah, that's
everyone
a
I know,
lie.
everyone I know who has a Mac has said they don't get viruses on it, and I've
So
definitely.
in the early days of the excellent marketing from Apple, there was the narrative saying that apples don't get viruses and it just works. And that's technically true. What was happening was Apple's were less likely to get viruses because their market share was like less than 1%.
Yeah, there aren't as many.
So
designed.
nobody was making them.
That makes
Now,
sense.
and the same thing is true for Linux. People say like, oh, well, Ubuntu doesn't get viruses either. And it's like, yeah, because like 0.03% of people are using Ubuntu. Granted, a lot of stores like Walmart, I don't know specifically Walmart, but a lot of big box stores use Linux for all of their point of sale terminals and self-checkouts because it's free.
Yeah.
They don't want to pay.
It's a good,
but I think Walmart might use XP or something.
Dude, for all my talk about not trusting the media, I bought their narrative about Apple not getting viruses. Shame on me. Shame on me. But one thing I was pointing out earlier was I love that they write designed in Cupertino on their products. It's like, you mean made in China?
Yes.
Like, I don't care if it's designed here.
Yeah. A lot
You
of places
made
do
it
that.
somewhere
That's
else. Like,
scandalous.
I didn't think that, like, nobody thought that you were having the people working in the sweatshops design the products. You're not progressive for doing that here.
Designed in my luxury apartment
Yeah,
in Cupertino,
exactly.
California.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got breaking news from
Yeah.
Project Veritas. New York Times national security reporter says the January 6th media coverage over the top and the FBI was involved. NYT national security correspondent Matthew Rosenberg contradicts his own January 6th reporting. Quote, there were a ton of FBI informants amongst the people who attacked the Capitol. Quote, it was like me and 2 other colleagues who were there outside and we were just having fun. I know I'm supposed to be traumatized, but like all these colleagues who were in the Capitol building are like, OMG, it was so scary. I'm like, F off. I'm like, come on. It's not the kind of place I can tell someone to man up, but I kind of want to be like, dude, come on. You are not in any danger. These effing little dweebs who keep going on about their trauma, shut the F up, they're effing bitches. Wow. They were making too big a deal. They were making this an organized thing that wasn't. Will I stand by those comments? Absolutely. Except when James O'Keefe confronted, I don't know if it was this guy. Did he confront this guy on the street or another journalist? He confronted him. They wouldn't comment on any of this stuff.
I don't think this was this one. Not
He
sure.
just posted. Where's my phone?
Do they? Because usually when they do one of these, they confront the people in the video. Did they do that in this video? I haven't seen it yet.
I
Yeah,
think
it's
I want
just-
to
not
fact check, make sure in real time that I'm right, because I just followed this here, James O'Keefe, and no, okay, so right, I was right. It was someone else.
Right.
Mark Mazzetti was the guy that got confronted by James O'Keefe over, I believe, this story. So you have this guy. This is Matthew, National Security Advisor Matthew Rosenberg, who's saying these things, and a different New York Times reporter was being questioned or challenged over it. So the point of this story, I'll tell you first and foremost, the media, these journalists, they believe exactly what we've been saying. That it was bad, but come on, you're traumatized. It wasn't that bad. That there were FBI informants involved. Behind the scenes, they all know it. Publicly, they won't say it. They won't report it. I'm wondering why anyone should care at this point. If the New York Times comes out and says there's no evidence there was the FBI involved, is anyone going to listen? Do you care if other people who are dumb as a box of rocks listen? What are you going to do? You can't convince them they're as dumb as a box of rocks.
Well, it's funny that he is reporting ostensibly on the side of the media. There's a New York Times reporter. He's upholding the narrative. And then behind closed doors, he's saying, this is pretty much nonsense. I'm over the narrative. It just goes to show that what the polling has said is valid, which is that more Americans want to see the 2020 riots investigated than want to see January 6th investigated. It's something like less than half of Americans. It's 40-something percent, 46% think that the January 6th committee is good and they want the investigation to continue. And 2/3 of voters want Congress to investigate the 2020 riot. So people, I mean, the narrative's falling apart even among the people who are supposed to be forwarding it.
Correct.
There are also 2 reasons why you should care about that. And the first reason is, all the non-violent defendants from J6 that are still in jail without lawyers, without trials. They were hunted down by the DOJ and the FBI, these people, for trespassing charges, and locked them away. The second reason you should care is because this sham January 6th committee in Congress is targeting Republicans that had nothing to do with January 6th. Yep. They had nothing to do with the riot at the Capitol. They are simply political opponents of people on the committee.
Right.
One of those people is my boss, Alex Brusiewicz, who all he did was organize several peaceful protests against the election. He did not go into the Capitol on January 6th. He was not involved, but he got a subpoena and had to testify today. Another example is Andrew Sarabian and Arthur Schwartz, who are 2 more GOP strategists. They got a subpoena, and they weren't even there or working for Trump on January 6th. They're simply friends with Donald Trump Jr. and running a super PAC that's opposing Liz Cheney.
So why aren't they refusing?
Well, they are. Well, you know, because you can be held in contempt. Like you can have
Bannon
criminal.
did it.
Well, yeah, you can have criminal charges filed against you.
But
And
there's the charges. I think Bannon got like a misdemeanor. You know,
I don't know. Yeah.
and I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm wondering why so many people are just like, okay. Alex Jones pleaded the fifth.
Well, yeah, on the legal. Well, it's different on the legal side. Like when we just talk about it, you know, it seems like it'd be easy to do that. But these people are putting the full force of government on a lot of these innocent people that didn't do anything wrong.
I think Republicans are pathetic.
Absolutely.
I was gonna swear,
Little spineless.
but I try not to. But overwhelmingly pathetic. you
Yeah.
know?
Well, whenever you have Republican leadership complaining about how the far left has taken this country too far in that direction, you have to ask, why did you let them?
Right.
Well, there's just so many people who are like, you know, a good example is the "Don't Say Gay" bill, which
Oh,
we'll get into
wonderful.
in a minute. I don't
Yeah,
want to
love
derail
this one.
into that. I just want to highlight how even conservative outlets are referring to it by that instead of calling it the actual title of the bill or just like HR 1557 or whatever. They're going along with it. I'm just like. That's why I liked the other day we mentioned Christina Pushaw, the spokesperson for DeSantis, when she called it the anti-grooming bill and basically called the Democrats groomers. I'm like, no, that's what I call spine.
Yeah.
Or when Ron DeSantis walked up to those kids and was like, you don't got to wear those if you don't want to. You know, please take them off. And I think he said later that he didn't want people to think he made them do it. So like, I don't care if you wear it, just, you know, I'm not making you do it. So too often we have people who are just like, I'll just, you know, I'll do what I'm told and I'll go along with their abuse of power. You get Donald Trump. What did the Republicans do when the first 2 years of Donald Trump's presidency? A whole hot nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Or when I'm sorry, I'm so sorry for the
Don't call me
president.
names,
I'm so
yeah.
sorry that my party acts this way.
They had Congress, and they gave it up in
Didn't do
2018.
anything. Yeah.
Yep. They're not going to do anything.
No, they're going to
as a
just
point
keep
of
collecting a
clarification-
paycheck.
Sorry, go on.
No, it's just they need term limits. This is ridiculous.
As a point of clarification, Eric with Project Veritas is telling me that they did confront Rosen.
Oh, they did?
Thing, yeah, and that's
Oh,
coming
okay.
out in the future. So
All right.
stay
Yeah. I'm
tuned.
just saying the video they posted of
Yeah.
is of Mark Mazzetti.
Right. So they did.
Yeah, because every time they do one of these, they always confront the person
Yes.
about what they said, and usually they just run away from them.
So here's a journalist saying it wasn't organized, like outright saying it wasn't organized.
Well, it's
That's
a New York
interesting.
Times reporter. You know, we got to trust NYT.
That's right.
Yeah. Behind closed
Only
doors, they
behind
tell you
closed
one
doors.
thing. Dude, our institutions are controlled by evil, despicable people, and there's no real political opposition. The Republican Party, for the most part, is the no, wait, don't party. And that's
Just
it.
do it in a couple weeks from now. Not
No,
yet.
wait,
Not yet.
don't. We're losing. We're being beaten down. Every policy we push forward is a half measure, and the Democrats are getting what they won. Better not push too hard. You don't understand.
They're like, here's the art of the deal. You start with the compromise,
Yeah.
and then they'll give you what you really want.
No, Seamus. They're saying, here's the
What?
art of the deal. You start with the compromise, and then you give in to their demands.
Exactly. You just give them everything they want,
I mean, the gun issue is the best
and then they like
example.
you. Then they're your friend, and they won't call you racist anymore.
How many Republicans have come out and been like, abolish gun law restrictions? None.
Yeah.
I mean,
basically, no.
it's not really fair. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren
Very
Boebert.
small handful, but those are radicals, Tim.
Yeah.
Well, it's hilarious. I've said this on the show before, but whenever a Republican actually tries to reverse left-wing policy rather than simply upholding the status quo or arguing that our rights should be intruded upon more slowly, they're referred to as a radical, even though the whole point of their position is for them to reverse that which the left has put in place.
I'm waiting. You guys keep talking. I'm waiting for source confirmation on some breaking facts.
I'm thinking about the history of leadership, governments, and stuff. Most of them, I think, have been pretty bad over the years. Like if you take 1,000 years, you probably got like 960 years of trash leadership, and then you get these people that are so good because they're just actually good, and then they call them the great or something like that. And they give them these titles because they were actually intelligent people somehow that got into power that didn't get themselves killed. It's not common throughout history. It's very rare to see a fantastic leader and a good governance. You know, Hammurabi did it. That was like not 8,000 years ago or some stupid.
Yeah,
you know,
6,000
I
years ago.
just want to say, I kind of don't understand how this show exists.
Because we push back on each other.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, you've got the New York Times outright lying about all this stuff. You've got the government coming and rounding people up into solitary confinement, and somehow we're able to criticize them very heavily and keep talking about this and showing like Veritas and pushing back on it. I'm just like, after everything we've seen, after every media organization has lied about almost every single story, how does a show like this
I think it's
exist?
because
Don't hold your
people-
breath, buddy.
Yeah,
Who knows how much more
PowerPoint.
time we
Knock
have
on wood.
here.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think the success of this show kind of derives from that where people are waking up to the fact that all these people do is lie, and all they are tools for the large corporations and the establishment in this country, and shows like this aren't, and that's what draws the.
What I mean is, why hasn't YouTube taken it
Why
down?
are we allowed?
Because the people
Yeah.
in charge are not, they're being coerced by the military industrial complex. No one wants
Ian,
freedom of
you're
speech
rolling a
gone. Like the people that are really in charge of Google they're not evil. They're just being coerced by this established force.
I would like
if
to-
they were truly evil, they would have shut it down a long time ago.
I mean, that may be true, but
Maybe.
I think you're rolling a one here. I won on this one.
I don't think you need to censor people. I think you just need to assassinate their character. Obviously, at some point, they do want to censor. We've seen them do it before. People have been deleted from YouTube. But why take down Tim's show when all you have to do is say Tim Pool is a far-right extremist
doesn't
and
work.
anyone who repeats what he says is a bigot?
But that
Right?
doesn't work.
At some point, it doesn't. You're correct. And
The
I
show-
think that's when they do start taking people down. But the average person is still too afraid to talk about these things at their place of work or somewhere when they aren't sure that they're surrounded by like-minded individuals, unfortunately.
I am kind of curious how long
Hopefully
we
I'm
have
wrong.
on YouTube, and I'm glad we put our stuff on other sites, and I'm glad that we
So-
have the website.
I would like to mention as well. I've got
So-
some just an update from Veritas themselves.
Oh, yeah.
That their next installment is discussing New York Times' source is the NSA and the CIA, and that they do
Correct.
confront this individual. So this should be interesting. But I think people at Google are evil. I think people at Twitter are evil. I think there's a combination of evil and the banality of evil. And I do know it comes up a lot, but it is a good reference point, the Joe Rogan Twitter episode that I did, where I think you need only look at when I was talking with Jack and said, what is your reasoning for the misgendering policy? And they said, oh, because, certain people have a higher propensity towards suicide. And I said, what about people with body dysmorphia, or whatever it's called? It's called general body dysmorphia or something like that. People who want to cut off their own hands or something.
Oh, yeah.
And they didn't have an answer to that.
Yeah.
Or when I said, if conservatives think your misgendering policy is inverted, why do you side with only one half of the country instead of,
Yeah.
So clearly they have a worldview completely detached from yours. They're willing to silence and do whatever they want because in their worldview, it's what we were talking about yesterday. Within the two parent factions of the culture war, there are those who believe in inalienable rights. Whether you're religious or not, there are people who believe there exists something outside of you, and other people have equal right to life, liberty, and happiness. And then you have the woke cultists who believe that power is derived by force and they can take whatever they want. So that's overarching narratives here. We here are honest because, well, you should decide for yourself in your life because I respect you and your life and you do what you want. The other side believes that power should be seized, and you seize power by lying to people and manipulating them.
Well, as Jack Dorsey said, Tim,
If conservatives are allowed to express their views on Twitter, trans people aren't safe to express theirs. So censorship is actually promoting free speech.
Did he actually say that?
that's not exactly how he put it, but that's what he said. His whole argument was that transgender people are not in a safe space where they can speak freely unless those who would quote unquote misgender them are unable to do so.
Let's talk about.
That's not a
what's,
misrepresentation of his argument. That's what he was saying.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go
No,
ahead.
just to make another point about that, I think, it goes back to the fact that Republicans controlled the presidency and both chambers of Congress for 2 years and didn't do anything about big tech censorship. There are
Zero.
laws that can be changed that can prevent these big tech companies from censoring people, and Republicans just didn't do it. The good news is I think a lot of the GOP politicians and are starting to wake up and get it and understand that, hey, we can make reforms to Section 230. We can make reforms to these laws that can stop big tech from censoring people, and we'll see if it happens.
I want to bring up this clip from Tom Elliott on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
Stephen Colbert. He says, I know what his name actually is. He says, today the average price of gas in America hit an all-time record high of over $4 a gallon. Okay, that stings, but a clean conscience is worth $1 or $2. It's important. I'm willing to pay $4 a gallon. Heck, I'm willing to pay $15 a gallon because I drive a Tesla. Ha 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 ha.
I don't want a pro-abortion Catholic
hold on,
to talk
hold
to me about a clean conscience.
Maybe we
What's,
can do
no. What does he mean by clean conscience? What is that?
No
what is-
clue.
What is that a reference to?
I don't know.
Ukraine.
Climate change or
Ukraine?
Ukraine, one of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why would it be climate change?
Electric vehicles.
Buying less gas.
He didn't say anything about.
Yeah,
he
this
said,
is
He
Ukraine.
said buying gas.
This is
Yeah,
Ukraine.
Russia.
You don't have a clean. So it's Russia.
Yeah.
Except the price of gas isn't going up right now because of Russia. We only just today banned imports of Russian energy. So this is Colbert manipulating regular people. But I'd like to point out, as I stated a moment ago, why should I care if a bunch of NPCs sitting in the audience go ha 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 at a guy who's lying to
Well,
them?
there's a thing that comes up that says laugh. like blinks, so they know when they're cued to laugh and clap. It's all theater.
And then
literally in a theater they're
and
doing
then
that.
them laughing and clapping cues the audience to know that they're supposed to laugh and clap.
Yep.
And it also goes to show just how out of touch, the elite in this country is with regular people. Stephen Colbert's worth millions and millions of dollars. If the price of gas goes up, it's not going to affect him as much as it is somebody who has to spend like $20, $30 on their gas tank to get to work every day.
How about a progressive cost of gas? So the richer you are, the more you have to pay when you go to the pump.
And I saw this one of the most.
There's a meme.
I'm kind of joking because I don't want them to track people's income, but how about that?
There's a meme. It's from Cat Turd, and he said there should be two different gas pumps. Those who voted for Trump pay $2, and those who voted for Biden pay $10.
Hey, Colbert just said he wouldn't mind
Also-
paying $15 a gallon, and he can afford it.
Well,
a lot of people can't.
because he drives a Tesla, because he can afford a Tesla. I mean, how do you say something like that and not think, does this make me sound ridiculously out of touch?
They don't care.
Yeah.
Maybe
You know
it
what he
was
should have
supposed to-
said? He
Nothing.
should have
He should have just been quiet.
He should have said this quote: "Today, the average gas price in America hit an all-time record of $4 a gallon. Oh, let them eat cake."
Exactly. Let them use electric cars.
That's right.
He basically said
Yes,
let them
that's
eat
literally
cake.
what he
Like,
said.
Why don't you just drive a $60,000 Tesla?
Why don't you just get your Tesla?
Pete Buttigieg said the same thing twice, once in November and then once again Monday. It's like, maybe it's because people can't afford a $40,000 car.
Maybe like the economy is the worst it's ever been.
Like
I
Right.
don't know.
when someone takes an injury, that's not the moment to start like shaming them about getting healthy when they're hurting. That's not when.
There was
You
also
gotta
a
help them.
time like years ago when he was on Comedy Central where Stephen Colbert was actually funny.
Yeah, I
like
know.
late night
Long time ago.
I
long
thought he's
time
been
ago,
trashed
and
the
like
whole time.
and late night comedy has just become trash. And the reason it's become trash is because one, it's not even comedy anymore, and it's two, comedy is supposed to challenge people and make fun of the people in power, and it's become these people have essentially just become puppets of the powerful.
Yeah, I was looking at the SNL lineup. Did you guys catch
Oh
that?
my
The last
gosh,
SNL
yeah. No,
why?
skit
What
thing.
about
It was
it?
like Ukraine. I got to find out exactly what they're talking about. It's all the stuff you think: COVID, Ukraine. What
Yeah.
else is on there? Lydia, did you
And
get
it's not
those?
it's not humor anymore.
It's not.
It's like,
It's reinforcing.
hey everybody, Russia invaded Ukraine, and then everyone's like, woo, and they're clapping, and it's like, that's bad.
This strikes me as just another way to inject the idea that this is Russia's fault. But somebody was saying earlier today, I forget who I was listening to, it was something like MSNBC. They're like, no, gas prices have been rising since the start of the year. And I was going to say, too, that if you can't afford to pay for $4 a gallon gas, like most of us can't, odds are pretty freaking good that you also can't afford an electric vehicle. And this is
Yeah.
not the time to shame people for not being able to drive a Tesla.
But what's
Very good
sad
point.
about that is what members of the Biden administration are saying. Between
know.
Biden and Pete Buttigieg, they're telling people that if you're worried about the price of gas, to buy an electric car. The average electric car costs like $55,000, and the median household income in America is like only $10,000 more.
Right.
And that's what these people are telling us to do, that if you can't afford gas, you should buy a car that you can't afford. If you're homeless, just buy a home.
Right,
How
exactly.
hard could it be?
Why don't
What are you
we just buy
doing?
more
Why
money?
aren't you
Yeah.
buying houses, homeless people?
Yeah.
Jeez, it's so simple. It was simple the whole time.
I mean, in
But
their
hold- but
defense,
hold
a
on,
gallon
no,
of
no.
gas is going to cost
This is what-
$55,000
Right,
soon.
yeah.
This is what the left does with the homelessness problem. They're like, did you know that there are more empty houses than homeless people? Oh, let's just put the homeless people in the houses. And it's like, oh, and then when the house burns down, who's going to be there to help them? Because houses need to be maintained. Because I'll tell you this. We had the smoke alarms went off here one day, and we have no idea where, and then we're smelling smoke. So what do? Call the fire department, get everybody in the house. They got to go through, they got to inspect everything, and it could be an electrical fire somewhere in the walls. We don't even know. So imagine you got a homeless guy, clearly doesn't know how to maintain a house. Certainly some homeless people are, but a lot of homeless people are mentally unwell. Yeah. You put them in a house, you're basically shoving the problem under the rug. I'm not surprised that the Democrat establishment elites, people like Buttigieg, are saying, if you have an electric car, you don't have to worry about high gas prices. Yeah, well, if I was a millionaire, I wouldn't have to worry about it either. So case in point, if I was rich, I wouldn't be complaining. But for poor people, they're like, how is this solving my problems?
Well, here's the thing. Rich people complain. They just complain about you instead of their problems,
Right.
as is the case with Colbert here. I think I mean, I agree with you. Homelessness is mostly an issue of mental illness or addiction very
It is.
often.
Fact
And so,
confirmed.
yeah. And so that their whole point about, well, there are homes for every homeless person, that's not exactly demonstrating that they understand the issue here. And similarly, inflation and high gas prices are caused by the fact that we have printed trillions of dollars And that results in prices going up because you flood the market with excess currency. It's very straightforward stuff. And that they're going to sit here and blame Russia for it. And they're going to shame you for not buying an electric car. It's
You
your
know what I
fault,
did
buddy.
this morning? I bought a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Good idea, man.
We've been procrastinating on some things because we're waiting for the new headquarters to start construction. So I'm like, look, we need cameras, we need the new computer and the new live casting equipment stuff. I'll buy it when we're ready to, like when we're a week out from the completion of the studio, we'll buy it. It'll get here on time. And then I woke up this morning and I saw the news about Shell pulling out of Russia, and I was like, I'm gonna buy it all now. All of it, we're going to put it in boxes and we're going to keep it because we're like 2 or 3 months away from needing it. But if I wait, it's going to go up 30% or more.
We should start buying spare parts for like everything we got.
Refrigerator, someone
everything,
was telling us to buy
microwaves.
like 10 cheap Honda Civics or something. Yeah. Because then they all have the same parts.
Yeah.
And you can strip one and then fix all the other ones.
So yeah, like if you ever play Fallout 3, and you'll have like 2, repeaters, and then when one breaks, you can combine them to repair the one.
Yeah.
I learned that from video games, so
Video
it's a good
games,
idea.
Great teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not electric though.
Great
So maybe
deal.
we should do like ethanol conversions, because I can tell you this: I certainly will not be able to create gasoline, but making ethanol actually ain't that difficult. So you want to do like what the Doc did in Back to the Future and just throw garbage in your tank to make it run.
Right.
On methane
That's
or whatever.
flash graphene, man. That's what they do. They throw carbon trash into a little vessel and then bombard it with lasers and turn it into graphene.
To quote, I think it was Dan Aykroyd. Was it Dan Aykroyd who did that SNL skit in the 70s where he was like, Don't you want to own a $5,000 suit?
Oh, yeah.
Smoke a $200 cigar? Drive a $50,000 car? Inflation's not bad. He was pretending to be Jimmy Carter.
I love it.
Well, here we go.
Yeah.
So if you go by the inflation metrics, the calculation of the 80s, it's actually the worst inflation since World War II.
Yep.
We're also seeing a ground war in Europe, which we haven't seen since World War II.
Flashbacks.
So, I what kind of worries me is if these World Economic Forum people really do want a great reset, why wouldn't they advocate for a full-scale World War III?
No fly zones. It is absolutely infuriating to me to watch our elites talk about how unworried they are about this, because this is their fault. This is all their fault. The fact that we have massive inflation, which is not affecting them, entirely their fault. Their sons will not be sent overseas, but yours might, because you're a pleb. You don't have an electric vehicle because you can't afford it? Too bad. Should have thought about that before you were poor. It's like unbelievable, the level of arrogance and disconnection. That's what make me really mad.
Remember when Paris Hilton wore that shirt that said
Yes.
"Stop
Yeah.
being poor"?
I've seen that meme a lot lately.
That's a funny shirt. I like it.
That meme applies to a lot of people lately.
Yeah.
And also, what is this where we have inflation, economic downturn, and potentially World War III? We skipped right over the Roaring Twenties. This
Right.
was supposed to be the.
Yeah, what do we get?
I was expecting the Roaring Twenties, and they skipped right.
I
They skipped
know.
right to World War III.
it's
We
part of
got
what-
that in 2019.
Yeah.
Kind of what makes me nervous when we talk about how Trump had the best economy of all time was under Trump, and that kind of sentiment. It
Not of
reminds me
all
of the
time.
maybe not of all time, but it reminds me of the Roaring Twenties because it's like just pumping inflation. Everything looks great, but not really. It's because we're blowing the balloon up until it explodes.
But Ian, you're incorrect. Unemployment was like at record lows.
They
in
don't
most
measure it
communities.
right. They don't measure people that aren't looking for work.
That's
You
true,
never
but
have.
you still had employment going down among communities like in ways we haven't seen before.
I don't think it was the worst economy when
It
that
was-
was going on, but it was inflating, and it was construed as good because it was a lot more money coming into people's pockets, but it was
And
inflating.
that's a function of that's an issue of inflation. If everybody's rich and people don't want to work, you got to pay more to incentivize them to work.
Right.
And that's the problem with UBI. So one of the things that happens under a really great economy is some dude who makes $100,000 and it's the most they've made in a year. Someone comes to him and says, I want you to do this job for me. The market rate is $2,000. He goes, I don't need to do it. I've already made a bunch of money this year and I'm good. And they say, okay, how about $3,000? Okay. Now the demand, it costs more to get that job because somebody already made too much money. And that can also be a factor in driving up inflation as well.
So it's like they want to keep people poor so that they can keep prices down.
It's an interesting control they have to, this game they play with the Fed. And so there's interesting questions. We had Will Chamberlain on. I think it was Will talking about the gold standard.
Yes.
And he was saying, there are some interesting problems that happen when you have no control over the market because wild things can occur in the market. Bringing some stability isn't necessarily a bad thing. The problem, in my opinion, is that the whole thing is exploitative. The whole thing is exploited. The elites take advantage of it. They use it to manipulate and control. They do punitive taxing. They say, we don't want people to smoke, so we're going to tax cigarettes. We don't want people driving cars. We're going to tax gasoline, make it expensive. They do things like that. They shouldn't do that. That's manipulating society for political agendas. But that's how they use the monetary system to their advantage.
Or they tax people without ever officially saying that they're taxing them by printing a bunch of money.
Yep.
And the value of everybody's savings and their current salary decreases so that we can fund other programs elsewhere. But it was never conceived of by the public as a tax.
Kind of feels like a hostile takeover of the crypto market over and over again when they drive the prices down and then buy it back up. Hostile takeovers are illegal now because they used to do it with companies and it was just so blatant. But now it's with crypto, it's not a company. It's just it looks just like an asset so it doesn't, I don't think people have realized that it's kind of the same thing as going on.
Silver and gold are up. I think gold, someone want to check the gold price? I think it broke 2K.
Let me see.
But I think about that and I'm like, I do like gold and silver, personally to a certain degree, but it's certainly not tracking alongside inflation.
2057.
2057, so it's over 2,000. So it should probably in 2010, I think silver hit like $40.
Yeah.
That was crazy. But if silver's been $20 for 10 years, it should be way higher.
Right.
So that's why I'm kind of like, I don't know if silver is the best bet in the world. It's better than just sitting on US dollars that are inflating, that are becoming worthless. So I'll certainly pick some of that up, but I'm not super confident. I'm wondering, this is a question that we've asked quite a bit. What is a household item that is used frequently, but extremely hard to make? And so one of the things I
Copper
thought,
wire.
like you don't go, honey, can you pick up copper wire from the hardware store for us? Sometimes
Oh, you mean
do.
if it's used every day by people? Yeah.
So I was thinking antiseptics because while it's probably not that hard to ferment like certain alcohols to use as antiseptics, we use them frequently. You use them. I mean, you use mouthwash almost every single day. You're not supposed to do it every day, but for a lot of people, use it a lot. You can use alcohol and other alcohols or hydrogen peroxide for cleaning wounds and stuff like that. So I'm thinking like, what's something that's really hard for an individual themselves to make? But we use a lot. That will be extremely valuable.
Medicine. Yeah.
Medicine for sure. Yeah. We were talking on I think it was the members only thing about how horse epinephrine was like
right. This is
1/500th of the cost of human epinephrine, even though it's identical, the same thing. But please don't go buy horse medicine.
Yeah, we talked about that with Thomas Massey. I remember that.
They love accusing conservatives of promoting horse medicine.
I've been looking at how someone messaged me.
Joe Rogan took horse dewormer.
Yeah. That you can make fuel from wood. It's very dirty, and you can also make rubbing alcohol from wood. Distilling.
Was it methanol?
So
Yeah.
maybe rubbing alcohol is not antiseptic is not so hard. You can't use it as mouthwash though. That grain alcohol I think is just for topical stuff.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking. So I was like, buy some mouthwash. Vitamin C.
Huge.
I think vitamin C might be like there might come a point where you're buying stuff with vitamin C or look. If you live in certain areas, where do you get your vitamin C from? Serious question. For a lot of people, they take supplements, or they're getting it from
meat, oranges, from meat actually.
Well, how much vitamin C is in
citrus fruits too?
Yeah.
But those don't grow in West Virginia.
Right,
I suppose you can eat some berries and like pawpaw in in September and October.
Very seasonal.
But for a lot of people, they're going to be lacking a lot of very important vitamins. So you could walk up and someone's going to be all scurvy-like, and they're going to be like, I have this bottle of water. And you'll be like, I got vitamin C. And they're going to be like, please.
Oh, strawberries.
I'm not sure that there's much vitamin C in meat. I've heard that
Spinach,
in the past.
I think.
When you're talking about vegetables, that's when you start to get it, yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's in grass. I'm trying to find out. If you can
Parsley.
boil grass and
Yeah.
drink like a grass tea and get enough vitamin C.
Where
to
are
get
you
or
going
something.
to get your fats from? In like a true apocalyptic scenario.
That's a fish. I mean, that's a tough one.
Where are you going to get you're going to go fishing?
You
Yeah,
have
not
to.
everybody
That's the
can do
question.
that.
Are you capable of hunting? Are you capable of fishing? It's
Are
a
you
good
raising
question.
goats or
Flax
cows?
fish would be
develop some
good.
of those
Fish would be
survival
good.
skills.
What a lot of people
Olives.
don't understand. So I think it was like in Venezuela, they were telling people to like eat rabbits.
Yeah.
But that's rabbit starvation because rabbits don't have a lot of fat. So you're just getting lean protein and it's not enough. You need those fatty acids and stuff like that. So a lot of people don't realize this. Americans have what I refer to as the shotgun diet, where they eat so much random stuff, they get everything they need and then some.
Right.
But if you actually start paying attention to your diet and start, tracking how much you're eating and what you're eating, you'll start to realize like, whoa, when you actually control for what you eat, you better pay attention to where you're getting certain vitamins from. Like vegans have this problem with B vitamins because they eat a lot of just like vegetables and sugars. And a lot of people get their B vitamins, my understanding is from meat and dirt, and they're not getting it. So you got to take supplements. So I think that's one of the issues where people might experience. Look, if gas is at $4 a gallon, record high already, and Russia was just cut off, what's gas going to hit? There's some people saying over 200 a barrel. Russia was saying over 300 a barrel. So that means we could be looking at like $8 to $10 a gallon for gas. If that's the case, good luck getting anything.
Agreed.
Anything. Because that diesel cost is going to go way up, and that means the cost of every single item, shipping costs are going to double. You want to get something, double the shipping cost. Inflation's going to skyrocket, and if we get hit with hyperinflation, man, it really does feel like the 1920s, right? Like Germany, at least.
Tucker Carlson had a farmer on his show last week who said that because of the price increase of wheat, people could see their grocery bills go up by $1,000 a month. That's what this farmer said.
Remember mayonnaise, Mayogate?
Yeah, I sure do.
Mayogate. During the pandemic, this was almost like a year ago now.
Wow.
There was a restaurant that said they were spending something like $200 more per week in mayonnaise, and the left saw the story. No, I'm sorry. Republicans saw the story and then posted something like Bidenflation at work. Restaurant spends $200 a week for more mayonnaise. So the left saw it and, trying to argue with the Republicans, claimed the story was fake because they were like, consumer prices are up 5%. So if they're spending $200 a week and that's 5%, there's no way they're spending that much money on mayonnaise. And it was amazing because these news organizations, news, I do air quotes, started reporting the story saying restaurant mocked for lying about mayonnaise costs. So I did the unthinkable. I called the restaurant and I said, "Hi, I saw a story where it said that one of your partners said that you were spending $200 a week more in mayonnaise." And you went, "Oh yeah, we do 10 of the tubs per week, and they've gone up $20. They've almost doubled in price. So yeah, it's like $200 a week." And I went, "Okay. I mean, that's a lot of mayonnaise, though." And he goes, "Well, we got a 250 person capacity restaurant, so we typically we're usually fairly full, and the mayonnaise is used for salad dressings, for sandwiches, for dips. So we go through quite a bit." And I went, "Oh, okay, thank you."
Good to know.
So it's amazing how, for political reasons, they accuse some restaurant who is just telling the truth of being liars to suit their political agenda. That's the danger of these people, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who points out information that's inconvenient to them has to be a bad person. They need to assassinate their character.
I found a couple of common ways to get vitamin C in a pinch. Dandelion greens, make a dandelion tea.
Yeah.
They're a weed, so they grow really fast if you want to grow those on a farm. And pine needle tea, excuse me, from pine trees.
Interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Chicory also. I don't know.
Yeah,
what
we do have, I think, chicory around here.
Yeah, pine needles aren't that hard to come by.
We need more pine trees.
Yeah, we got
And
some.
get the environment for it.
Dandelion tea, you say?
Dandelion's incredible. It's so powerful.
Can you
make
eat
salad
dandelions?
with it. You can.
Yeah.
You can.
Really?
They're really, really good for you.
Yeah.
Do they taste good?
I've
Yeah,
never
they're
eaten one.
microgreen. Yeah.
But when do you eat them? Do you eat them when they're like all poofy, or do you eat them when they're yellow?
You eat them. You eat the greens.
So you don't eat the flour?
I don't think you eat the flour.
I don't know.
What
I'm
if you
open to
like
it, though.
pulverize it into a flour and bake like cookies with it?
That could work. Oh, we actually had watermelon seed flour the other day, and that was really
Really?
good.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was interesting. We made like a carrot cake with it. It was a lot of fun. But
Remember we made that cricket bread?
Yeah.
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 It was
what
not
that?
good.
It wasn't.
Not
I would
good.
eat
It
it
was-
a pinch.
Yeah. I would
Wait,
give it
whoa, cricket bread?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like flour made from pulverized crickets.
Interesting.
Gross.
Because
It didn't rise properly.
Did not eat
it was back when they were talking about everyone's going to eat bugs. And then I was like, look, I got to be honest. I have no problem eating bugs if I have to. Because I think people need to recognize that life is not candy canes and rainbows. Like sometimes you got to eat bugs.
Yeah.
And honestly, when they're like, you will live in the pod, I'm like, depending on where the pod is, I would not mind like a treehouse, small little living situation, and
Maybe a
being
zip
responsible.
line, yeah.
You can
zipline.
you can actually buy crickets as a snack too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
They don't taste good.
Well, so I remember one time. So when I was at the Caller, we did this video for our subscribers where we had because it was like when it was like going off of the I will not eat bugs, I will not live in a pod
Right.
thing. We actually ate some crickets and we bought them. They flavor them. You can buy them in like the same types of flavors that you do like potato chips. And I had some, and they didn't taste bad. They just, when you eat it, you feel like it all on your tongue, and that's like what was it's really
I don't
yeah, and
I
that
don't
was
care
like the
about
worst
that.
part about it for me at least.
So I purposefully then ordered a bag of cricket flour, and Ian made a cricket bread. It was kind of nutty, but too bitter. And so Ian actually mixed flour in with it because the cricket won't rise. One of the things we could do though, and I think we
Sweet
should try
bread,
it.
yeah,
No, is needs more egg. To get because
yeah.
the egg can help it rise and some rising agent. So I would give the cricket bread like a D+, meaning like you could eat it
Keep it
and
from
probably
starving.
just you'd be like, "Nyeh."
You
know,
could probably
like,
mix it in with like a flour bread and then get a lot of protein out of that way.
Yeah, we got. You can get cricket cookies that I hear are actually pretty good. The thing about the bread is that there's not a lot of flavor or sugar in it, so you're just getting the astringent cricketness of it. But I gotta be honest. Like, I tell you this, and this is true of everybody listening as well. If push came to shove and you were starving and someone walked over to you with a bunch of roaches, you'd be like, "Oh, thank you so much," and you would chow down. And it would be the most delicious thing you've ever tasted. No, for real, like, food tastes better when you're hungry.
Yep.
And then my thing is, you ever have corned beef hash for breakfast?
Yes.
For me, like, the first bite is amazing. The second bite is pretty good. The third bite is okay. And the fourth bite, I'm like, okay, now I'm done. Like, it's just very salty and strong. And, like, the first bite is like, oh, so good. When you're hungry, food tastes good. And so give it a couple days. Don't eat for one day. Have no access to food. And I will walk up to you with a bag of grubs. And you'll be like, oh, and they will taste delicious. You'll love it.
Yeonmi Park she escaped North Korea, and man, when she was talking about the starvation the people are experiencing in North Korea, they can't think straight. They can't even question the government because all they do is search for food. Like, there's people on the side of the road looking for food. There's people dying on the side of the road from starvation.
But all you got to do is
horrifying to think of that.
You take planks of wood and you press them into the ground, and then the next day you come out.
You flip it over.
You lift it up, take the bugs, eat them, and then move the plank to a new spot.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah. And so that's what Steve Renee was telling us about chickens. That if you want to feed your chickens and make it cheap, you just put different planks of wood, out.
That's clever.
And then you come out, and when the chickens are out, you lift up the wood, and they all run and eat the bugs. Then you move the plank to another spot. You move them all, and the next day you do the same thing because the bugs keep going underneath them. There you go.
That's pretty smart.
This is our future in the post-apocalyptic
It's
world.
It's also our past.
Yeah.
No, I got to be honest.
No,
I got no problem with being responsible. Look, I'm not saying everybody should be eating bugs and stuff like that. But my view is kind of like, if we all had to be a little bit more responsible for ourselves, the food we eat, I think it's a good thing.
Yes.
So we've got chickens. We have too many eggs. We got to start giving them away. We're incubating 56 eggs right now because we have too many.
Can they be frozen and stored?
You can store them. It's called glassing, I think it's called. And they can be stored for a couple years.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
was just watching Grizzly Man last night. You guys ever see that Grizzly Man movie? That guy that went to he went up north somewhere and lived with the Grizzlies, and then one of the Grizzlies ate him. And it's on video.
My God.
Werner Herzog did a documentary about it, and the guy's like screaming for his life.
Jeez.
Yeah, nature's no joke.
Why did the grizzly eat him?
He was hungry. He went up there during the feeding times before hibernation. He defied all the logic and was like, "They're my friends. You guys gotta watch Grizzly Man."
Wait. Did he have a relationship with the Grizzlies?
He thought he did. He was like, "They're my friends," except for that one, the machine who I don't trust, and it was the machine that ate him and his girlfriend. It's really a horror.
Ate his girlfriend.
Yeah, it's on video. They
goodness.
didn't take the lens cap off. It was just recording the audio. Wow. It's freaking terrifying.
And you can hear him screaming and everything.
For like minutes. And it's just like the bear is taking its time. Wow. Like, nature is not a joke. You do not want to be you versus the elements. We're lucky. And when the ammo runs out, they didn't take any defensive weapons. They were like, no, we're not going to even have bear spray. He truly believed that they were his friends.
I'm trying to figure out, things to buy that we'll need. I bought a katana. Is that something we'll need?
No.
Like in the apocalypse? Train in the ways of the sword?
Maybe 20 machetes.
Yeah. Doesn't need ammunition.
So this katana was like $50. And it's really sharp.
Cool.
It's probably not good.
No.
But it probably works for a little bit.
I'd save it for home defense, to be honest, against like animals. Stuff like crazy, like raccoons and
probably just use it for clearing brush and going bushwhacking or something.
I mean, look, I'm no defense expert or prepper expert, but I would definitely recommend that people try to get non-perishables that could last them for quite a while, even if you don't have the money to buy large bulks of it right now. We're getting to the point where it could be too late soon, so at least every time you go to the grocery store, maybe buy some extra cans if that's all you can afford. And I'll add this as well. People are really black-pilled about the economy and the direction it's going to go in. And it very well could get really, really ugly really quickly. And that's not something that I want for this country, but I'll say this. Your grandparents and great-grandparents who lived through the Great Depression are probably better people than you, and they're probably more virtuous because of it. So even though we might be facing really hard times do make strong men.
Correct.
And you should hope and pray that you're able to make it through whatever is to come with strength and dignity.
All right, let's go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the show with your friends. Head over to timcast.com. We're going to have a member segment coming up for you around 11 or so p.m., but let's read what you guys got going on. All right, let's see. Not My Regret says it's terrible in Michigan too. Saw $4.55 unleaded and $6.22 diesel. Oof. It's close to over $1 in the span of 2 days. I remember when I was a kid, premium, it was like a nickel difference. It was like 5 cents a gallon difference for premium mid range, and then or for like regular middle and then premium. And then after the price spike, it went to like a 10-cent difference. Now I'm seeing a 50-cent difference. I saw, like, look at the pictures. It's like $6, then like $6.30, then $7 or whatever. So it's like the gap between the grades is getting crazier.
I wonder if sometimes how much the price is going up is purely because of inflation, and how much if it's opportunistic by the companies masking it with inflation and just trying to make more profit.
Talking gas prices?
Just prices in general going up.
I think in this time of inflation, it would be very beneficial for them to keep their prices as low as possible. I know that there's been arguments from the Biden administration, for example, that they're doing this because of greed. But then the question is, did they just start getting greedy after you guys printed trillions of dollars?
Huh.
All right, let's see. Someone chatted, and this isn't a super chat, but it's a good chat with alerts. And it says, Tim, you're wrong on bugs. A journalist tried to do 30 days of eating bugs. Even when starving, she couldn't do it and wanted to die instead.
Oh,
Yikes. Wow. Well, all right then. Yeah, you need fish.
You need something
OMG Puppy says Victoria Nuland is deeply to blame for the conflict in Ukraine today.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Oliver Stone's documentary, Ukraine on Fire. It's on YouTube, Rumble, and Vimeo. Interesting. Brian Bova says Nostradamus was right. The zombie apocalypse starts in Russia. What if it is a zombie apocalypse?
If you're in a zombie apocalypse and you find a dead body on the ground, if you didn't put an arrow in its head, it's probably still alive.
This is what I'm sorry. I get so tired of watching zombie movies, or honestly any movie, where it's like they're fighting a bad guy and they don't finish the bad guy off, be it a zombie or otherwise. Mm-hmm. It's like, dude, this creature, this undead thing is attacking you, and they'll like hit it and it falls down, and then they'll be like, all right, everybody, let's oh no, it's biting me now. And it's like, well, yeah, like what do you think was going to happen?
And then they never ever call them zombies in zombie movies.
Yeah, well, in some they do, and then they'll
very rare.
But what movie was it where they duct taped magazines to their arms?
Oh, for armor? As armor?
Interesting.
They can.
So
that's
they
good
don't get
scratch
bit?
armor. Yeah, slashing.
Well,
protection.
you can't bite through it. But the funny thing is, like, biting is actually a really awful way to transmit diseases. So it's just like a bad theme anyway.
Well,
to be fair, the human mouth is disgusting.
there was also
rabies. Yeah.
in the movie Zombieland with Jesse Eisenberg, he always had the rule where he always had to double tap every zombie that he killed.
That's right.
Interesting.
There you
Great
go.
rule. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's grab a super chat. EaseZQ says, we got 1.5 trillion omnibus bill consisting of several thousand pages whose text has yet to be released. Congress
Yep.
to vote on it by tomorrow night at least. All right, look, I don't know how this stuff works, but Marjorie, can you just like slide in a repeal the, like abolish the ATF just right in the middle? They'll sign it. They're not going to read it.
They will.
There you go. ATF gone.
Well, this is
repeal the NFA gone.
Yeah, well, this is how DC works. They pass these bills that are like gajillion pages long that nobody's read, that's written in the dead of night by lobbyists and special interests. That's how our government works. We're not governed by Congress. We're governed by special interests in Washington, D.C.
Yep. All right.
And also, like, this was a thing that my friends at American Principles Project were highlighting today, which is that the Democrats are trying to put their new version of the Violence Against Women's Act into this omnibus bill. Now, that's a misnomer for the title, because part of the bill is any women's shelter that doesn't allow biological men has their funding taken away. Does that sound like preventing violence against women to you?
No, that's
The
crazy.
exact
All right,
opposite.
let's read some more. We got Janice Partridge, who says it is already the 9th of March in New Zealand. So happy birthday, New Zealand time, Tim. Thank you very much. Tomorrow is my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yes.
Happy birthday, Tim.
Happy birthday.
Jerry Wells says almost every country has biolabs. Just depends on the research being conducted in them. I completely agree. That is a true statement. And that's why the problem is these fact checks need to be thorough and break down the issues. Like, yes, there are biolabs here. Russia has issued statements of concern. We don't believe they're genuine. These are not included in Putin's demands. These don't appear to be funded by the U.S. I think that's all fine
Are they
to
weapon
say.
labs unconfirmed?
Right. What are they? Well, they did say that it was like food and drug stuff, so. All right. Let's grab some super chats. Dark Soul Poetry says, F Ukraine, F NATO, F the old imperialist club from the EU. Well, there you go. That's one way to put it.
Based.
Tell us how you really feel.
Jack Sparrow says, Occam's razor. If you think Ukraine, the only country to get poorer after leaving the Soviet Union, has their own biolabs support their robust medical program, you're a fool. Yes, we funded it. But it's Perhaps. Let's get to the point of that story. We can certainly have our opinions on it. I agree. I want to be precise because I want to have the discussion around the BioLabs. I want to have the discussion around what Russia's motivations are. And then we can investigate them and figure out what was going on, right? I do also want to say, I'll add to your point. If you think Ukraine, the only country to get poor after leaving the Soviet Union, is actually beating Russia in a ground war, then you are a fool. Now, I maybe that's a little bit harsh, but they keep saying like, oh, Ukraine's winning and they're doing this. Then, yeah, it's because NATO is supporting them.
Mm-hmm. They call it the borderland, the Ukraine borderland, because I believe in the past, the empires of the West, the French and the English, and the empires of the East, the Russians, the Ottomans, would fight in the borderland. They all agreed, we're going to fight here because it's flat. And then if we level the universe, if we level it to the ground, we're going to level Ukraine, the borderlands, and not our home territory. So it's just like a torn war zone, man. And for them to actually be defending that flat land, they're going to need massive amount of help.
All right. Beef Nasty says, just make a Zeppelin, Tim. I did. We created the Let's Go Brandon Blint. We flew it already. Had live cameras on it and everything. Where's the update, Wikipedia? How come people haven't gone on Wikipedia and put back in that I invented a Zeppelin? You see how it works? When I don't invent the Zeppelin, they claim I do. And then when I do, they won't put it back in.
It's messed up.
Well, you guys have heard it. I did. It's on Cast Castle Vlog. You can take the video and you can put it on Wikipedia. Tim Pool did invent a Zeppelin and put a flag on it. Actually, it was Luke's idea. Let's go, Brandon. There you go. The KL Tanker says, did you know on your Spotify podcast are ads for CNN and yourturn.gov vaccines? That's absolutely fine. Yeah. I'm glad that CNN is buying ads on my show. And then I can take that money to fund a show where I say that CNN is trash and complete garbage and you shouldn't watch it. Thanks for the money, CNN. Woo. I also think it's funny, the activists who are like, no, that's people who are advertising on their show. Yeah, it's CNN. Congratulations. Go complain to them. I'm pretty sure, like, if you went to CNN and said, you know, you're advertising on Tim Pool's show, they'd be like, maybe we don't want to do that. Like, or maybe they do, actually. Like, I was like, when Bloomberg was advertising on my YouTube channels, it's kind of the channel he wants to advertise on because I'm ragging on him all the time. And so he needs to be able to say his piece. Sure. You know? Yeah. Sure, I guess. That's an interesting thing about the way ads are run today. If we're doing direct sales, because this happens all the time, I get an email from like our sales rep and they'll be like, would you want to sponsor from this? This is the reason we have very few sponsors. Why it's mostly like BioTrust, Virtual Shield, and maybe like a couple other companies here and there. Because they'll reach out and be like, do you want to read this? And I'll say no. But with YouTube and with podcast automated ads, I don't control it. It's totally third party that you know makes the ad buys and does the positioning. So I'm just like, I guess it was CNN this time. Whatever. Group B says, Tim, remember when Trump gave a speech at the UN General Assembly about how the Germans were captive to Russia on gas? Or Trump NATO summit about energy deals with Russia? Both took place in 2018. Oh, I certainly remember those. That's right.
That's why it's always hilarious to me when people like say that Trump weakened our alliance with NATO. All he ever wanted them to do was stop outsourcing their energy production to Russia and actually pay the 2% of their GDP to defense that they're supposed to. Yep. And that's been interpreted as weakening NATO.
Mm-hmm.
I'm CIA says you owe retraction on Coney 2012. Last night's show, you claimed Jason Russell gripped himself in public. This was an exaggeration by the press. See Internet Historian's Story of Coney 2012 video. He didn't grab himself in any way.
I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
I didn't say he was tubing it. No, I could have sworn there's a video of him like holding himself. You know what I mean?
Like you saw.
Yeah, Invisible Children boss Jason Russell arrested for doing it to himself in public.
Doing that.
But
NationalPost.com.
But that could be the manipulation. Was he just holding his, hoo-hoo?
He was probably tripping and took all his clothes off and ran outside and was running around like a monkey. I don't know.
We need
there's
family
video.
Show.
There's video of him.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's why I'm like, yeah, he was, he was holding himself.
Still inappropriate.
Right. That's why I said gripping.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what else to say,
Gripping.
All right. Billy Warren says, Tim, Ian and Seamus are correct. Take a look at Oliver Stone's documentary, Ukraine on Fire. It will explain exactly what the U.S., Gloria Nuland, and the State Department did there. You mean Victoria? It's probably voice text. Victoria Nuland.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Mystery says, Tim's Biden is way more accurate than Seamus's.
Come on, man.
Part
Tim ain't saying Well, anyway.
Yeah.
All right, Tim, now do yours. I've never heard it before.
I can't.
can't do
I
it
can
on the spot.
I can only spontaneously do it.
Part of why I love Oliver Stone and this Ukraine on Fire, why I'm excited about Ukraine on Fire, is because he was in Vietnam. I think he got drafted. He might have joined, enlisted, but he was over there and he truly believed in the mission and the government and everything, and realized while he was there how messed up it is. And Operation Northwoods came out, and he was like a vocal proponent of false flags and the effery that goes on politically with war.
Here we go. Agreeing Clover says, civilian contractor. Here, I've been to Qatar and saw someone fall during construction and no one batted an eye. Wild West out there.
Jeez.
Yikes.
Shout out to FIFA.
Man.
You're doing the world a great service.
Yeah, so much work.
And Victor Rodriguez, as former Apple employee, hated them. Macs absolutely can get viruses. Mac OS is compartmentalized, so viruses are usually contained to the download folder and end up being force pop-ups and redirects. Interesting.
It was based on Unix, by the way.
Yeah. It's like obvious, Which I've never liked Apple, and I'm just
Me
like,
neither.
My friends are like, I'm going to spend $1,000 on a computer with the processing power of another computer that costs $300, and I'm like, why are you doing that?
In
Like,
the
I have student
90s,
loans, I don't care.
they were
And now
like-
they're like, pay off my student loans, and I'm like, no.
They were vastly incompatible with gaming in the 90s when I was getting into PC gaming, and it was just such a turnoff and a bad taste. I got the iPhone because it was the first smartphone, but then I immediately switched to Android when they started doing it. Apple was like, you can't take the battery out of the phone. It was freakish.
No, what was it
I
in the 90s?
never-
They had the Power PC processor instead of Intel, right? And so they couldn't run anything cool.
You talking
on
about
PC.
Windows?
Apple?
No, I'm talking about, Apple did not have Intel processors until the MacBook,
Oh,
right? And now
I
they're
don't
not
know.
an Intel anymore. Yeah, so
Jeez.
I remember when Pentium 2 came out.
that was crazy.
Pentium 2.
I was like a little
We had a
baby.
turbo button on our computer. You press it.
Yeah.
Turbo button? I don't know. Was that what did it do? Overclock or something?
Do.
Like, why not use it then? I don't understand. Like, why have it off?
Yeah.
Probably because your computer overheats.
Did it just make games play super fast or something?
I remember we went to Best Buy and we got a computer that was like 13 gig hard drive.
Oh, I got an.
And we were like,
Dude, it's crazy. I remember this was 2005. I was a little 10-year-old boy at Fry's Electronics with my dad, and he handed me a little USB flash drive off the shelf, and he said, Seamus, this can store as much as 82 floppy disks. And I was like, what? I was like, can we have it? He's like, yeah, just put your school assignments and stuff on it. I was like, my goodness, it was a little 82 megabyte
cool.
flash drive. Not like an 82 megabyte flash drive. What would you even do with that?
remember, didn't they make floppies? Like floppies that had like 200 megabytes on them or something?
They
it was
did
like
towards the end.
Yeah, no one was using them, but it was just like they had these super high capacity floppy disks.
Oh yeah, I think tape discs are still very useful for backing stuff up
I had a-
because
I
they
had a
don't
tape
degrade.
drive. The first computer I ever put together, I got parts from a thrift store, and it was a Windows 3.1 with a tape drive.
I'm looking up the turbo button a little. It says here the turbo button selects one of two run states: default, normal speed, or reduced turbo speed. From the mid 90s.
Well, there was like there was this new format. They looked like floppies. I don't think they would function in a regular floppy disk drive, but they could store up to 200 megabytes. You need like a separate attachment.
This is the contrary to what it suggests. The turbo button lets a computer run slower than the speed for which it had been designed. That's
All right.
interesting.
Let's read some more. We
Increases
got-
the engine's power and efficiency.
Pyrotech Nick says any form of progressive tax is corrupt. A non-corrupt tax would be flat. I do not agree. I think the issue with a flat tax is that the richer you are, the less you need to survive. So the issue is, for every dollar you earn over, well, at this point with inflation, I mean, I don't know what the median number is going to be, but let's say you need $100,000 to have all your basic needs met. That means someone who makes less than that isn't having their basic needs met, but they're still being taxed. Let's say you make $100,000. That means you're having your basic needs met and you're paying taxes. For a rich person who's making $200,000, you now have $100,000 on top of your salary after taxes, however much, 60 or 70, to do with whatever you want, like buy extra hard assets very easily, hedge your bets, and start generating wealth very, very easily. This makes it extremely easy for people who exponentially increase their wealth to increase their wealth further and gain more and more power in the system. The arguments I've heard from the libertarian right is that it's a good thing if people learn how to use the system to gain power because they have the merit to learn how to control the system. And my argument is I don't like individuals having disproportionate amounts of power just based on the fact they have money in the first place, because some of these people didn't earn the money, they inherited it, and then they never have to worry about earning anything, and you end up with legacies running governments or running corporations, and that's not a good thing. How you solve for it, I don't exactly know, but I think that at the very least, progressive taxes, look, I'll put it this way, I have money, and I pay an insane amount of taxes. And it's like, man, if people only knew like how crazy taxes get at the highest brackets, it is insane. Well over 50%. They want to talk about American taxes are only 35. Nah, they have no idea what they're talking about. Because when you're running a company and you're doing these things, you get taxed every step of the way. When you're buying the equipment you need, when you're paying employee salaries, when you're paying yourself, the taxes are massive. Someone will buy an ad for this company, for a sponsor spot, we'll read it. And of the money we get, more than half goes to taxes in some way. It's insane.
Yeah.
But
we live in the best country on earth.
We're making it work.
Awesome stuff all around us.
I want to make a point here, regardless of how you feel about having a flat tax or a progressive tax. You mentioned inflation and income brackets, and this is going to be something that you have to look out for in the future here. Back in the 80s, after the inflation of the 70s, Reagan came along and he adjusted the tax code because we had a progressive tax code. And so there were people who prior to the 70s were making significantly higher amounts of money than they would need to survive. So they were taxed at a higher rate. But after the 70s, because inflation had gotten so bad, people who were in that income bracket were not necessarily wealthy anymore. Right. So he adjusted those brackets and he was accused of slashing taxes for doing that. Now, he did cut taxes in other ways, but it was argued that that was this horrible, regressive thing to do. So I want people to watch out for this. As inflation gets worse, and as it becomes more expensive to survive, people are going to be pushed into higher income brackets that have a higher taxation level when they're really just breaking even or making ends meet.
So the taxation level should go up.
And when a conservative comes along to try to adjust that, they're going to accuse him of slashing taxes, and they're going to say, in this environment where so many people are going hungry, how could you even think about cutting taxes on the rich?
I think wealth taxes make no sense. Stupidest idea I've ever heard. But I think the higher brackets need a higher percentage, and we have to stretch and adjust, which means like what you're saying. For a certain income level, maybe around like the 200,000s, we lower the taxes. And then for over $500,000 to $1 million, you slightly increase. And then for like, $1 million to $5 million, it goes up. And then for like $5 million to 15, it goes up. The issue is that I think the tax bracket stops at what, like 250?
250 million?
No, 1,000.
Oh.
Yeah. I think it's like, no, it might be, yeah, I think it's like I think, what's the last bracket, like 250? Might be like 500. So that means somebody who's making, in terms of income, like 13 to 14 million a year, these CEOs, like Colbert, I think it's 16. Some people are getting 50, depending on the contracts they have, depending on what industry they work in. They're paying the same percentage as somebody who's making 200,000. That's one of the problems I have. It's not an issue of the progressive or flat tax. It's that if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. You want to have a flat tax? Okay, fine, man. Far be it for me to argue. I'll have more money. You want to do a progressive tax? Well, then you need to keep going with the progressive taxes.
Mm-hmm. So this is interesting. I was looking into what the brackets are, and we have an article on the IRS website or a page saying that they're providing tax inflation adjustments for 2022, which is sort of a start, but I'm very curious to see how they're adjusting it, considering based on the way that our government actually measures inflation, they don't really give you the full picture.
What do you guys think about the whole taxation is theft? Oh, sorry. I thought you were done.
No, I guess my point is we are still going to need adjustments to the tax code. Always. Because of inflation.
My issue is, as much as I can be like, I understand the idea of a progressive tax to kind of curtail the power of private individuals who accumulate too much. We don't want to stop them from ever being able to work, but we do want to make sure that, we're constraining inequality. When inequality gets, one of the precursors to societal collapse is inequality. I know a lot of people maybe don't like the idea, but it's true. When the wealthy have too much power, disproportionate power, and are saying things like just buy an electric car, you get people losing their minds. Like people right now, I'm telling you, man, you got people who are like, I can't buy gas, and Colbert being like, I drive a Tesla, I don't care. Mm-hmm. Yet people are gonna be like, okay, that's it. These powerful elites are screwing us over. Biden is halting gas leases for climate change issues, and then someone's gonna start screaming. So you need to have some way to like constrain these issues. The problem is giving the money to the government doesn't solve the problem. Yeah. Being like, we want to make sure that ultra rich people aren't saying let them eat cake. But the problem is giving money to the government just recycles the money among the elites, because elites, it doesn't matter if you're in corporation or government. They're all big. They're all birds of a feather flocking together up top.
Yeah, exactly. I used to be extremely libertarian, and at this point, I don't necessarily have the same argument from principle about certain forms of taxation. But ultimately, I still don't trust anyone in government to spend the money better than a wealthy person would if you just left them alone with it.
How do you justify owing the Federal Reserve more money than we have?
It's a good question. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Like,
I'm
how,
not
well,
sure how you'd answer that. Yeah.
Let's read some more super chats here. Murph says, I heard a retiring general contractor say once, don't be surprised that if one day plumbers and carpenters start making more than heart surgeons, skilled master laborers will be in high demand. Absolutely.
well, geez, heart surgery is pretty skilled labor.
Ah,
But I see where your point.
Jeremy Whean says spruce has vitamin C.
Oh, good to know.
All right.
We have a bunch of crazy berries out here. We have winter berries. There's a
lot
tree
of vitamin
that
C, I bet.
in the winter drops berries all winter.
That's
I
really
didn't
good.
know that was a thing. The chickens go nuts for it though. Whatever. We also in the summer we have wine berries everywhere.
Yeah, those are good.
Everywhere. It's crazy. You walk outside, it's like a red, like just red everywhere, and you can walk up and just take them and eat them. I saw a guy pull over on the side of the highway, get out of his car, hop over, and just grab a bunch and get back in his car and start eating them. It's crazy. All right. Pardaxilus says, good reporting from Elad on the People's Convoy.
Woo.
Was only able to find his videos on Timcast website. Is this on purpose? Seems like a failure to promote them. Maybe a Timcast Reports YouTube channel is in order. I think we put them on Rumble because we don't want them on. I don't know. Maybe we just didn't think about it. We put them on the website. And honestly, we're trying to produce more content for the website that is substantive and valuable for people. So as a member at timcast.com, you are funding this kind of reporting from our reporters on the ground. And it was expensive. Absolutely expensive, as we expected it would be. But it's okay. Let me just let everybody in on an industry secret. The coverage that we did of the People's Convoy from when we started to when it finished, I think it's still technically ongoing, cost us a lot, thousands, and has made us nothing. We don't generate money off of like ad revenue from it. And technically we could argue because we're mostly a membership website, it's just a component of what makes the site valuable for you as a member. But it's free content. So that's why I just say, look, we take money and we spend it on doing good reporting and getting good reporters out there to talk to people and be honest about what's happening. And that's expensive. I don't expect to make a lot of money. I expect to make a great website where people want to support us and they become members because we do good work. There you go. All right, let's grab a few more of these. The Spence Fencer. Hey, Ian, put wood in an airtight box, then burn the box. Distill vapors from the box's cooled condensifier. You have wood alcohol now.
Wow.
Get gooder, man. Really? Wait, is that it?
Interesting. I looked that up.
Distill
So cool,
vapors
man.
from the box? I didn't know that. That's really interesting. Dilly Dilly says spruce needles are very high in vitamin C. Wow, I didn't know that.
I don't know if we have.
Ian, for some reason, bought like 50 gallons of vinegar.
Only 0.2% of your daily vinegar or vitamin C in red wine vinegar. None of the other ones seem to have vitamin C in them. But yes, vinegar.
Like people are always like, hey, Tim, why is there so much vinegar in your storeroom? And I'm like, I don't know. Ian bought it.
It was Ian.
It never goes bad.
But
And
what
it's
do
a
you
great
do?
seasoning agent. If I was going to make like a tea, desperate situation, I get some tree bark, some grass, vinegar, and salt, and it would be like a broth.
I guess you can take like malt vinegar and put it on your potatoes.
Oh, for sure.
Fish.
You can rub it on wounds. I mean, especially the white vinegar.
Yeah.
Can't you use it for some kind of like chemical processes to strip out baser elements from other compounds?
I don't know deeply on the chemistry. I'm not sure. I've heard. I think so, but I'm
We
not.
need a
know.
chemist.
Yeah. Definitely learning chemistry is important. The Spence Fencer says copper destroys vitamin C. No copper cookware for vitamin C. Interesting.
know.
Very interesting. All right. Let's grab just a couple more here. True Hello says part Korean podcaster Tim Pool does not know dandelions can be eaten. In fact, he does not. I knew you could make tea because Ian talks about it so much.
Dandelions.
Eat 'em.
I used to be
And
allergic
apparently
to
eat
them because I
flour.
ate so much sugar. It turns out years later. No, I don't sneeze around them anymore.
All right, let's grab this one. Cornbread says, Tim, if a progressive tax is the answer, what are your thoughts of a progressive sales tax based on the price of goods? Higher the price, the more the tax. Income tax, in my opinion, is theft. I honestly don't know because as much as my issue here is curtailing income inequality so that you don't have oligarchs. Now, let me explain. When you have oligarchs, when you have a very few handful of elites, they buy up all the buildings and property. The building will cost $1 million to buy, but the rent will be $500 a month. And you think to yourself, how is that possible? Well, it's simple. The rich only trade among themselves and the poor people are shut out from ownership, from the ownership economy. I think that's really, really bad and it results in extreme tyranny. I don't think taxes necessarily solve the problem because then you're just giving money to government and government just screws around and does stupid things like indoctrinate kids in schools. So I don't have all the answers, my friends. It's really, really difficult.
And BlackRock's like doing
Exactly.
BlackRock's doing a lot of that, where they're buying up all this, middle class housing and jacking up the rents for everybody, and basically pricing middle class home buyers out of the market.
I say we do this. JD says fried dandelion flowers are delicious. Taste like fried mushrooms. You do it when fresh and yellow. Well, all right. We're going to do it. Let's look up a fried dandelion recipe. See if we can do, Ian's survival course on the Cass Castle vlog or something.
Beautiful.
And we'll bread them and fry them up.
Sounds awesome.
And then dip them in some kind of like chipotle ranch.
Whoa. All right.
We'll
It's
see
like
if it
fried
tastes good.
zucchini, but with dandelions. I love it.
I mean, I don't know. Bees apparently love chilling out on the dandelions. I'm sure it must
salt,
be good.
pepper. This is basic. I bet it's so good for you.
Let's try it. All right, everybody. If you haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends about the show if you really do like it, and head over to timcast.com, become a member to support our journalists, and to see our members-only segment, which is coming up just around 11 p.m. We'll publish it. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me at Timcast. Greg, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Greg_Price11 and on Instagram at Greg.Price11. 2022 coming up, and my company's working with a lot of great America First candidates to get them elected and get Republicans in who will actually keep their promises, and we're working really hard to do it.
Right on.
Wonderful. My name is Seamus Coughlin. I have a YouTube channel called Freedom Tunes. We make educational cartoons and political satire. We just released a video today on our military's diversity requirements and how that might affect us in our preparations for a potential war with Russia or China. So please check that out. I think you guys will enjoy it. And thank you so much for watching.
I'm Ian Crossland. I just let you guys know I rolled 100 earlier. I didn't tell anyone, and
That's
I just
a lie.
rolled a
I don't
60.
believe
I
it.
would never lie. I would never lie. Follow me at iancrossland.net if you'd like to, and find the love within yourself, bro. I love you.
I was going to say today I came up with a new wish. The only thing I want in life is the ability to build a house out of ammunition out in the country. That's my only dream now. I just want to escape and make sure that I can defend myself. And I just wanted to say too before I go, these are depressing times, but these are the hard times that will make ourselves and our children very strong. This is what happened with our grandparents who survived the Great Depression.
Amen.
Anyway, you guys can follow me on Twitter and minds.com at Sarah Patch Lids.
We will see you all at timcast.com. Thanks for hanging out.
Bye guys.